Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only two FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix. Flaws for qualifying, which is possibly why they really did struggle in their qualifying trim and their qualifying setup. So very interesting to see why these Red Bulls have been struggling. And Joseph saying Max was a little bit more raw and had to refine his skills, so he had a lot more crashes in his early career. I certainly agree with you on that. He did take a little bit of time to get up to speed to certainly where he is now with his consistency and his just absolute speed that he does have. I agree that he did have to refine himself and his driving style, and now that he is a force to reckon with when he does have the car underneath him. Of course, you can say that it is down to the car that he is so strong nowadays, but I think it's hand in hand with driver and car just working perfectly together. And unfortunately in Singapore, we just saw that Max Verstappen didn't have the right car underneath him, and he did struggle quite a bit. Moving on though to the next article, the signs that suggest an immediate Red Bull resurgence in Formula 1's Japanese Grand Prix. So one article says that they may struggle, another one saying that they may be strong yet again. Yeah, they want me to subscribe for that though, so we won't carry on for that. But we'll just read a little bit about it. There will, as Red Bull's RB19's dominance has gone for this 2023 season, it will not go down unique in Formula 1's history as the first car to be taken to every single campaign to race win. Carlos Sainz's victory in the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix was utterly brilliant. He and Ferrari nailed every important call and stressful moment, backed up beautifully by Charles Leclerc, who went on to back up his teammate Carlos Sainz and acted as a rear gunner in that strategy, just holding off the two Mercs in the later stages of the race. And then, of course, he did get overtaken when they were on those new tyres. But yeah, very, very interesting to see that Red Bull might be a bit stronger if they do bounce back from Singapore. I mean, I think that once they do get that strategy correct and have the right setup for that race, they may just be able to bounce back properly. Hopefully we do see them bouncing back and we have a lot more competition. Another article now saying bad news for Logan Sargeant after reports emerge of Williams Formula 1 negotiations for weeks. Of Williams negotiating for weeks with Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich for a 2024 drive. There are several reports suggesting that Aston Martin reserve driver Felipe Drugovich could be a possible replacement for Logan Sargeant at Williams. This could be alarming news for the American rookie, as he now has limited time to prove his worth and keep his seat in Formula 1. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Even though team principal James Vowles has praised Sargeant and wants to support the rookie, it is clear that the driver needs to step up his performance if he wants to stay in the sport. Even though his teammate Alex Albon is a much more experienced driver than him, Sargeant's pace has been nowhere near that of the Thai drivers. As the 2023 F1 season gradually comes to a close, the driver market is heating up, with the new drivers hungrily awaiting for an F1 seat, for those who are not performing or up to par. According to Blick, one of those drivers is Aston Martin's reserve driver Felipe Drugovich. The Brazilian-Italian driver has an impressive record of racing in single-seater racing series. He has won in Formula 2000 Euro Formula, Spanish Formula 3 and Formula 2. Although Formula 1 Haas driver Mick Schumacher was also a prime candidate for a return with Williams, the doors of an opportunity have nearly closed on him, and has reportedly been contacted by Alpine's World Endurance Championship team. Hence, Drugovich is the next candidate for the British team. Only time will tell whether Logan Sargeant will be able to prove his worth and keep his seat, or if Williams will start to look at the driver market for a new race driver. Williams' team principal wants to support Logan Sargeant instead of punishing him. Despite many rumours and reports of Logan Sargeant's seat being in danger, Williams' team principal James Vowles is willing to support the American rookie. Vowles has stated that Logan Sargeant is well aware of his learning curve and how he needs to make it steeper. Furthermore, he explained how Williams should help him along in his career path rather than punish him for his poor performances. The pace of learning has to increase now. He's well aware of that, and I think he's already very mature for his age. He knows he has a long career ahead of him, and he's in charge of that. Our job is to help him along the way, not punish him, James Vowles told the media. This clearly shows that Williams' team principal still has his arms around Logan Sargeant, and it's also very much solidifying that the rookie will most likely stay with the British team until 2024. Well, if he doesn't, and if he continues to crash like he did in Singapore, I think then maybe the team will start to look at other competitors to fill that seat in 2024 and keen candidate for that seat will certainly be Felipe Drugovich, as well as Mick Schumacher, who I'd love to certainly see in that seat for 2024 and onwards. I think Mick needs to be given another opportunity in a race seat in Formula 1, but it's difficult at the moment with so many people being available for a race seat at the moment, as AlphaTauri set to announce drivers, as Williams are told to approach Lawson in another Formula 1 news roundup. It's been another busy day of Formula 1 news, as fallout continues from the Singapore Grand Prix and attention begins to turn to Japan this weekend. AlphaTauri are in the headlines for reportedly deciding upon their 2024 lineup, though that has yet to be confirmed, and pungent pundit opinions from the weekend still hangs in the air from a frantic Singapore Grand Prix. Let's dive into what AlphaTauri reportedly are set to do. AlphaTauri are reportedly set to retain Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. A report from German outlet Automotor and Sport claims that Yuki Tsunoda has agreed to stay on at AlphaTauri for the 2024 season, and he could have his new deal announced at his home race in Suzuka this weekend. Tsunoda stood out alongside Nick de Vries earlier this season, while he has been significantly more challenged alongside Daniel Ricciardo and Liam Lawson in more recent races. Also claimed, AlphaTauri are set to hold on to Ricciardo for next season, while the Australian still sits on the sidelines for now as he recovers from a broken hand. Planet F1 has approached AlphaTauri for comments, but has not yet received a response from them. Brundle has also said, though, that AlphaTauri are a no-show. Well, AlphaTauri's no-show was a sporting disappointment when they didn't show to their FIA stewards after the impeding incident between Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen. While Max Verstappen was handed a reprimand for impeding Tsunoda at the Singapore Grand Prix, no AlphaTauri representative was required to be at the FIA hearing over the matter. Despite this lack of requirement from the governing body, this was led to questions about the two Red Bull outfits working alongside each other to potentially protect the World Championship's leaders' interests. Quite how Max Verstappen didn't also get a penalty for impeding Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying when considering other penalties applied this season was a great surprise to many in the paddock, which I confidently predict includes the team and driver in question, Brundle wrote in his Sky Sports column. That Tsunoda's AlphaTauri team didn't send a representative to the hearing, albeit as the junior Red Bull team, was a sporting disappointment to me. Very interesting to hear that from Martin Brundle, and Williams have now been told as well to swoop in for Liam Lawson if he doesn't get picked up by AlphaTauri for a race seat. Former Formula 1 driver Karun Chandhok believes current AlphaTauri substitute Liam Lawson is making a fine impression in Formula 1, and Williams should be considering him for a 2024 seat. Only the AlphaTauri seats and one Williams drive remain uncontracted for next year. And if Lawson is one to miss out in the Red Bull Junior musical chairs, former Lotus and HRT driver Chandhok thinks his best performances have been more than worthy for a drive at Williams next year, based on what he has done in such a short space of time. You've got to have the conversation, haven't you? Chandhok said on Sky Sports, because Albon's outqualified Sargeant on every occasion. He has scored all the points so far for Williams. If you are Williams, you should be swapping around, and Liam Lawson has put himself on the market in a very good way. I certainly believe that Liam Lawson should be on the driver market for any other team that has a seat available for the next season, or even in the next 2 seasons in the future, because I think Liam Lawson is certainly a hot commodity for the future in Formula 1. We'll have to wait and see what does happen in the future, but very interesting to see what is happening at the moment. Moving on to another article here, Formula 1 fans slam Sergio Perez as he had made a horrible move on Yuki Tsunoda in the race. Sergio Perez has come under fire from fans for his collision with Yuki Tsunoda, which ended his race in Singapore. Formula 1 fans have been hitting out at Red Bull driver Sergio Perez for crashing into Yuki Tsunoda after the race start of the Singapore Grand Prix. The damage sustained from the collision caused the Japanese driver to retire from the race on the second lap. Tsunoda reported to the AlphaTauri team that he had suffered from a puncture before he stopped the car off the track. Luckily for the rest of the grid, he was not able to get the car behind the race. Well, luckily for the rest of the grid, he was able to get the car behind the race barrier, so a safety car or red flag was not needed. However, he was shocked. However, what has shocked fans is that Perez was not investigated by the stewards for the move. Onboard footage has been released to social medias, and fans have been taking the opportunity to hit out at the Mexican driver for the disgusting move. Perez taking Yuki out of the race, but no investigation or event it being shown on Sky F1 coverage. Red Bull running the FIA and the media, said one fan on social media there. Certainly a lot of fans getting quite upset for the fact that Sergio Perez was not investigated for his horrific move on Yuki Tsunoda there in the race. Hopefully we do get more of those moves being investigated after the race, as that is just horrific. We don't want to see drivers being taken out in the first lap like that from drivers like Sergio Perez. And I mean, we've seen cleaner racing from Sergio in the past. We don't expect him to race like this, and hopefully we don't see it again. As I do see, we have a whole bunch of people commenting. We have Mark there in the comments, Joseph, and Orville, of course. Thank you very much for all of you for watching. Please do be sure to comment there in the comment section if you haven't yet. And do be sure to vote in our poll asking if you think Max has had tough competition throughout his racing career. Currently, 75% of you think he has had tough competition throughout his career. Moving on to our next article, and the reason why it's motorsport news here today, not Formula 1 news. MotoGP's first Indian Grand Prix has been hit by visa chaos, as some teams and MotoGP's first Indian Grand Prix has been hit by visa chaos, as some teams and riders are unable to fly. Many MotoGP paddock personnel and riders, including Marc Marquez, are currently grounded, having been unable to board flights bound for India due to ongoing visa issues. This weekend is supposed to mark the inaugural MotoGP round in India at the former Formula 1 venue in Bud International Circuit. The event has already faced numerous bouts of uncertainty, as requested track works were only recently finished, and the homologation process has yet to be finalised. Aprilia's Alex Espargaro told motorsport.com recently that riders are standing united on the subject of track safety and are due to inspect it themselves on Thursday before voting on whether or not to race. Most of the paddock was meant to fly to India on Tuesday, but many have been turned away from flights, having not received the necessary visa. The factory Honda squad and both of its riders, including 8-time world champion Marquez, are among the list. Marquez posted on social media saying, "Flight delayed due to a lack of visa for India, so we're going to pedal for a little while," referring to a picture of himself on his mountain bike. He now hopes to be able to board a flight to India on Wednesday, assuming his visa arrives. Some teams, such as Ducati and Aprilia, have been able to travel, while several others have not. Although confusion has taken over the scene, those affected point the finger at various agencies in charge of making the relevant arrangements, both European and Indian. Honda has been forced to cancel a factory visit with its riders in India scheduled for Wednesday, while numerous members of the media and photographers have missed flights due to their not getting visas on time. The International Road Race Teams Association has promised to reimburse outfits who have had to pay for their own flights to be changed. At this stage, it is hoped that everyone will be able to land in Delhi by Thursday, at the absolute latest, to allow the event to run as scheduled. However, the proposal to curtail Friday's running, either partially or fully, is on the table depending on how the visa situation unfolds. This was a measure put in place last year at the Argentinian Grand Prix, when technical measures and issues with cargo planes meant that freight arrived to Termas de Rio Hondo late. Friday's running was cancelled as a result of this. An update from the Indian GP organisation is expected soon. Interesting to see what is happening there in the MotoGP, but ahead of this Indian Grand Prix. Hopefully all of the teams and the riders will be able to make it to the circuit before Thursday, so that running can go ahead as entailed. We'll follow on with that, but moving on to our final two little bits of information before we sign off here. Mercedes have brought new front wings to this new Japanese Grand Prix, or to the Japanese Grand Prix ahead of this weekend. Just some pictures have been released, not any articles, but some pictures have been released from some spy photographers with some new updated front wings from Mercedes. Maybe this is due to those technical regulations being brought in, and they are just making sure that they're safe in terms of that. And then the last one, just talking a little bit about the fact that it is bucketing it down with rain in Suzuka today. So we might get some rain there this race weekend. We'll have to wait and see what does happen. But at the moment, it is certainly pouring it down in Suzuka. We'll have to wait and see what does happen throughout the rest of this race weekend. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a very exciting one, very early for us here in South Africa, but we certainly hope that all of you will join us in the stream. I've been Reece here though on Forever Motorsports. Thank you very much for joining me for my daily Formula 1 news video. I'm sure that all of you have enjoyed it. Please do be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you have, and I will be sure to join you tomorrow for another daily news video. I've been Reece though. Thank you very much for joining me. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content. And we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reece, and here with some breaking news today, Oscar Piastri has extended his contract with McLaren till the end of the 2026 season. McLaren has extended rookie Oscar Piastri's contract through the end of 2026. The deal will keep Piastri and Lando Norris together as teammates for at least 2 more years, with the latter's contract ending in 2025. Piastri has impressed in his first Formula 1 season so far, scoring 42 points and finishing second in the sprint race at the Belgium Grand Prix. The Australian, considered one of the brightest young talents in racing, joined McLaren after a lengthy legal battle between the British team and Alpine, who had initially had him to their driver academy. Piastri won both the Formula 3 and Formula 2 championships before stepping up to Formula 1. His first McLaren deal was multi-year, believed to be until the end of 2024. McLaren has ensured his long-term future will be with the team. The length of Piastri's deal is significant, as it takes him into Formula 1's next planned rule change in 2026, suggesting that the Australian has faith that they can deliver a championship caliber car under the new regulations. Team boss Andrea Stella has said it is fantastic to confirm that Oscar has signed a multi-year extension with the team. Oscar is an asset to McLaren and consistently impresses with his performance, work ethic and attitude, so it was an easy decision for the team to make. He has already proved pivotal to the team, so it is brilliant to have his vote of confidence as we push to win championships again in the future. I look forward to seeing him develop with us as we continue this journey together. McLaren has shown huge improvements from a competitive standpoint this season, and company CEO Zak Brown hopes the team can be challenging Red Bull by 2025. Norris has yet to confirm what his longer-term future looks like, and we certainly expect him to possibly extend his contract with McLaren into the long-term future, or move to Red Bull, who certainly have shown a lot of interest in Lando Norris. But we are really excited to see that Oscar Piastri has extended his contract with McLaren to the future. And I'm certainly very excited to see what the rookie Oscar Piastri can do with his Formula 1 future. Thank you very much though for joining me here today for this breaking news. I have been Reece here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for another daily news video here on this channel. Glad to see that we have a few of you waiting already for this video to get started, and a few of you have already voted in that poll that we currently have running. Which rookie are you supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix? Currently it is split between Piastri, Sargeant and Lawson, or equally with 33% on each of those drivers. So we'll move onto our first article of the day. Fernando Alonso is less worried over the Singapore Grand Prix slump after his suspension discovery. Fernando Alonso says he is less worried about Aston Martin's lack of pace in Formula 1's Singapore Grand Prix after discovering how much damage suspension he had on his car. Or how much suspension damage he had on his car, rather. The Spaniard labelled his Aston Martin 23 as undrivable after the race at the Marina Bay circuit last weekend, as he struggled to find any performance throughout the Sunday's Grand Prix. It was only after the Grand Prix, however, that Aston Martin realised the extent to which Alonso's performance had been hit by a damaged front suspension shroud, which had come loose on lap 2 and rotated side-on to disturb the car's aerodynamics. Speaking ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix, Alonso did not offer any specific details about how much lap time the problem cost him, but says it explained why things looked so bad. "Definitely it was not helping us," said the Spaniard. "We know how much it affected us, and we will not share it, but it was significant. So I'm a little bit less worried about the performance in Singapore after knowing the damage that we had. The pace was not real. The pace was not the real one in the race, and without that, maybe we could have followed the train of leaders and have less problems with the Alpine and Sergio Perez. Then everything would have changed after that. When you're not fast, you get a lot of issues. One possibility for the cause of the suspension issue was Alonso running over the debris from Yuki Tsunoda's opening crash with Sergio Perez. Alonso would not reveal exactly what happened. It's a private thing, he said. Alonso struggles at the Singapore Grand Prix, where he eventually finished 15th, came in the wake of an equally difficult time at the Italian Grand Prix, where he ended up in 9th. Those results are a far cry from the form that Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso showed at the start of the season, where it began the campaign as Red Bull's main challenger. But despite having just one podium finish since the Canadian Grand Prix with a second place at Zandvoort, Alonso is clear that there is no sense of frustration or disappointment about the pace Aston Martin find itself in right now. "Not at all," he said. "I'm extremely happy with the project. Also, in difficult races like Singapore or Monza, all our debriefs, all our meetings with the factory, they are very productive. It is the weekends that we learn more in the season. So the steps that we plan ahead for the future, or for next year, when we come to those races, are just huge. I never saw that kind of scale in terms of ideas and things on the table. So the motivation that the team has to become a top team and the resources and determination is just outstanding. I am very happy." He added, "We have to accept that everyone here in Formula One has a very high level. Everyone has great designers, great teams, wind tunnels, all these kinds of things. When we think about our wind tunnel that we have built and will be ready next year, and we have high hopes, most of the teams, that they have that wind tunnel already for a few years, so we just level their capacity. We're just now down, so this is something we need to have our feet on the ground for as well. So glad to see that Fernando Alonso is still looking towards this next weekend in Japan with high hopes that their Aston Martin car can perform quite well at a more traditional circuit. I'm certainly hoping to see that Aston Martin being able to do quite a lot better, but we'll have to wait and see what the future holds for Aston Martin's race car. How can Red Bull secure the 2023 Formula One Constructors' Championship at the Japanese Grand Prix? That is the topic of our next video here. Red Bull are very close to securing their 6th Constructors' Championship at this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. Here's how they can do it. Red Bull are on the cusp of wrapping up another F1 Constructors' Championship. This weekend became their first significant chance after they failed to do so in Singapore. Red Bull's F1 2023 unbeaten streak finally ended last weekend as Carlos Sainz secured Ferrari's first win in over 1 year. Max Verstappen, who cannot win the title until Qatar in 2 weeks, only managed 5th after qualifying outside of the top 10. However, Red Bull are very likely to secure the Formula One Constructors' Championship this weekend. Here's what they will need to do. Red Bull are 308 points ahead of Mercedes and Ferrari by 332 points. If they leave Suzuka with a 309-point lead or more, then they will win the 2023 Constructors' Championship. Red Bull must outscore Mercedes by at least 1 point at the Japanese Grand Prix. They must also ensure Ferrari don't outscore them by 24 points or more. Red Bull have only been outscored by Mercedes at one event this year, which was of course last weekend out in Singapore. On the other hand, Ferrari haven't outscored them by 24 points or more since Bahrain last year. So the chances for Red Bull to take that Constructors' Championship this weekend are really, really high and will pretty much only be taken away from them if they have a double DNF this weekend, which is highly unlikely, but off the back of last weekend, it's certainly not impossible. As I see, we have F1 Edits in the comment section saying hello. Thank you very much for joining us and commenting in the comment section now. As we also see Mark saying smash that like button. Please do be sure to go and smash that like button. Also him saying no wonder why Alonso didn't do that well on the weekend. I see a few more of you guys have also voted in our poll at the moment. Piastri with 33%, Sargeant with 22%, and Liam Lawson with 44% of who of you are supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix. Yeah, I'm certainly hoping to see Liam Lawson having another good weekend. We could see, though, the seat for that second AlphaTauri seat being confirmed this race weekend in Suzuka as well, as there's a lot of rumours going around about that at the moment. Moving on, though, to our next article, Hamilton says something is up if Red Bull doesn't win the Japanese Grand Prix by 30 seconds or more. Lewis Hamilton expects Red Bull to resume its dominance at the Japanese Grand Prix, suggesting something would be amiss if it did not win Suzuka's Formula 1 race handsomely. Red Bull suffered a mysterious lack of performance at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, which led to both drivers dropping out of qualifying in the second phase, as neither Max Verstappen nor Sergio Perez could improve on their final Q2 laps. Perez had stated that Suzuka should be one of the best circuits for the RB19 package, which has been an exceptionally strong car in corners that require high-speed downforce and fast changes of direction. Adding to Perez's comments, Hamilton ladled praise on Red Bull's current car and suggested that it should be 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field in race trim. I would think that if they're not 30 seconds ahead, like they have been in the past, then something's up, said Hamilton. As Checo said, it's obviously a difficult weekend in the last one, but that car should be phenomenal here. They've been phenomenal all year long. They've aced pretty much every circuit. It's going to be great to watch that car in general. Normally you would come here and it's beautiful to watch the laps that they do. The whole team and the drivers are doing an amazing job with the package they have. It'll be interesting to see how the weekend goes. I hope we'll be quicker, and I hope they're not as fast as the 30-second gap. Reflecting on Mercedes' own pace at the Marina Bay circuit, Hamilton reflected that Mercedes had not been too far in front of the pace of the Ferraris and McLaren and Lando Norris, but added that he did not necessarily expect a repeat at Suzuka. In last year's qualifying session at the Japanese circuit, Hamilton and Russell were outpaced by the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, and overlapped with the Alpines on single lap pace. Hamilton took fifth in a rain-shortened Grand Prix. After the race, he said, afterwards he said, I don't know whether that's really the case. The Mercedes had the best race pace. Carlos, though, was managing at the front. We are all relatively close, I would say, at the front, Hamilton added. So, he continued to say, but with a great race, it was just to have us all up that close up front. I think this weekend, I don't anticipate having the performance we had in the last race. We will work very hard to continue to try and push the envelope that we have. I'm hoping that we're not terribly far off this weekend in Suzuka. So, high hopes for Lewis Hamilton this weekend in Suzuka. We certainly hope to have some more competition up the front of the grid, and it would be great to have a Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull title challenge for that race win on Sunday. But we'll have to wait and see what this weekend has in store for us. As we move on to our next article, the Japanese Grand Prix. Lando Norris calls for harsher penalties for blocking in Formula 1 after Max Verstappen incidents in Singapore. You've got nothing else to do on an outlap but hit the recharge button and look in your mirror, and people seem to struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1, says McLaren's Lando Norris. Lando Norris firmly believes that Max Verstappen should have received a greater penalty for blocking at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, and has called on the FIA to clamp down on harsher penalties for drivers who impede on others in qualifying. Amid a dismal weekend for Red Bull on the street circuit last weekend out, Verstappen was called to the stewards after blocking in qualifying last Saturday to discuss 3 separate incidents of alleged blocking, 1 in the pit lane and 2 on track. He received 2 formal reprimands, 1 for delaying his exit from the end of the pit lane in Q1 and 1 for blocking Yuki Tsunoda in Q2, with Red Bull also being fined €5,000 for the latter incident, having admitted that there had been poor communication on its part with Verstappen about the oncoming AlphaTauri car. But Norris feels that the world champion got away for the Tsunoda incident lightly, and argues that in general there should be greater sanctions for impeding others in qualifying. I don't want to say too much, as I'll just create controversy. I think that blocking 1 on track was the one that should have been a penalty, said the McLaren driver in Thursday's press conference ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. He blocked someone. It's not just down to the team. I know the team got fined in the end of the day, but it should be down to the drivers as well to look in his mirrors and see if someone else is behind. You've got nothing else to do the whole lap. You've got to look in your mirrors, and it seems like a lot of people struggle to do that. it should just be harsher penalties for blocking people because so many people do it. It ruins your lap, it ruins your qualifying. It put Yuki out in qualifying. He was P1 in Q1 and probably would have been P1 in Q3 all the way. Just no one seems to care, arguing that cases of impeding are on the rise. Norris believes drivers ought to take more responsibility in qualifying when cars on faster laps come up behind them on track. It's especially difficult and has happened a lot this season. It has happened to me quite a few times, especially with certain teams, added Norris. But it's also up to the driver to look in the mirror. You've got nothing else to do on your outlap but to hit the recharge button and to look in your mirror. And people struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1. It's just a surprise. Certainly a lot of comments coming from Lando Norris, not necessarily happy about people just not looking in their mirrors and getting out of the way for traffic on their outlaps when others are on qualifying laps for the race on Sunday. Sitting alongside Tsunoda at Suzuka, Norris added, "I'll probably block someone else, Yuki, and make myself look stupid." In its verdict on the incident between Verstappen and Tsunoda, the FIA said that stewards reviewed a number of impeding and alleged impeding incidents from the current season, and consistent with previous decisions in relation to the severity of the breach, imposed a penalty of reprimand on the driver and a fine on the competitor. Verstappen was also asked on Thursday for his reflections on the incidents in Singapore. Every single instance is different, the Red Bull driver said. The only thing I can say about Singapore is that I explained what happened when I was sitting in the car. The information that was given to me. That was the only thing I could do. Then it's up to the stewards to make that call. Nonetheless, the decision to only impose a reprimand for the incident with Tsunoda had raised some eyebrows. Martin Brundle said quiet how Max Verstappen didn't also get a penalty for impeding Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying when considering other penalties applied this season was a great surprise to many in the paddock, which I confidently predict includes the team and driver in question. That Tsunoda's AlphaTauri team didn't send a representative to the hearing, albeit as the Red Bull Junior team, was a sporting disappointment to me. Well, it's a bit of a disappointment to Martin Brundle, but it is expected between those two teams when you have the sister team of AlphaTauri having an incident with the sister team of Red Bull. We'd expect really for them not really to send a representative and kind of just sort it out on their own. But yeah, impeding has come up into the limelight a lot in the recent weeks and months, and we certainly don't want to see drivers being affected by traffic in their qualifying runs again. So moving on to another article, speaking with Lando Norris yet again, he said, "He pushed me a lot. Norris is full of praise for Piastri after the Formula 1 rookie signs a new McLaren deal." Lando Norris believes his teammate Oscar Piastri has exceeded most people's expectations after the Australian's stellar start to his Formula 1 career with McLaren, which has led to a fresh contract. Ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix, McLaren announced that Piastri had signed a new deal that will keep him on board until at least the end of the 2026 season, 1 year beyond Norris's current contract. It marked the latest highlight in an already encouraging rookie campaign so far, which included a run to P2 behind Red Bull's Max Verstappen during the sprint shootout and sprint in Belgium and 6 Grand Prix points finishes. Giving his take on Piastri's new deal, Norris said, "First off, congratulations to him. I think any contract that allows you to stay longer in Formula 1 is a great thing. He's pushed, and he's performed. He's done everything he needed to do, and I think it's exceeded most people's expectations from what he's been able to achieve early this season. He's pushed me a lot as well. It's not a nice thing. It's not what I want, but he's done a very good job. So congrats to him for continuing for another few years. We've had a fun first half of the season and a lot of progress. I think for him to be part of that progress and to hopefully continue into next year, 2025 and 2026 for himself, it's going to be something really to look forward to." With Norris describing McLaren's lineup as the strongest on the grid, Piastri sitting alongside his teammate during Thursday's drivers' press conference at Suzuka, weighed in with his own thoughts. "I'm obviously very happy to have announced it already," Piastri commented. "I was already around for next year, but to announce it for the end of 26 now is very exciting. Pushed on why it was a 2-year extension, the 22-year-old added, "I don't know. Obviously, I've got 3 years already after this. I think it's always nice to have a sense of security. It's made sense from my point of view and from the team's point of view as well. Longevity and continuation together is a nice bit of confidence for us all." McLaren head into the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend on a high after Lando Norris' second place finish and Piastri's rise from 17th to 7th in the Singapore Grand Prix after being caught up by Lance Stroll's Q1 crash. Yes, well, certainly looking forward to what Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri can do in Japan. It's a more traditional circuit. I think it will suit their cars a lot better, and I'm certainly hoping to see them quite high up on the grid. Maybe we won't just get a three-way fight for the P1 there in Singapore, in Suzuka, but maybe we'll get a four-way title challenge between McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari this next weekend out. That would certainly be very, very exciting. Let's just jump into the comments here. TC saying the blocking will get worse and worse when more teams join the Formula 1 grid in the future. Yes, that certainly could become more of an issue in the future, but I think we just need Formula 1 to maybe have a look at its reviews and its systems in place and maybe figure out some ways to stop these impeding and these drivers getting in the way of each other on their quali laps. Moving on to our next article though, will Alex Albon compete at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona? Rumours currently going around have been saying that Alex Albon could race in the Daytona 24 Hours next year, with an article here from dailysportscar.com saying current Williams Formula 1 driver Alex Albon has been tipped to compete at the 2024 IMSA Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona in the GTP class with Acura team Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport. Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport has been rumoured in recent weeks to be fielding a Formula 1 driver in the 2024 Twice Around the Clock Classic in Florida. Speaking on the Week in Sports podcast yesterday, Marshall Pruitt believes Alex Albon is the driver in question. It was mentioned that a Formula 1 driver would be part of its Rolex 24 Hours driver rotation, he said. "I have heard on pretty good accounts that driver is Alex Albon, the Williams Grand Prix driver. I had one source in particular who tends to be immaculate when it comes to driver information. It's not something that I have heard from the team because I haven't asked, but to me, that's a cool thing." 27-year-old Alex Albon is no stranger to sports car and GT racing. Back in 2021, when he was without a Formula 1 seat, he competed in DTM with AlphaTauri AF Corsa, finishing 6th in the championship in a Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Next year, Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport is expanding its GTP effort with two Acura ARX 06s. Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque and Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz have been confirmed as full-season driver pairings. This is certainly very, very exciting if we do get Alex Albon getting into a 24-hour seat for the Daytona 24 Hours next year. We'll have to check and see whether that does clash with the Formula 1 calendar set up for next year, but it could be very, very exciting to have the likes of Alex Albon competing in a World Endurance Championship race. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing that. If it does happen, I will certainly be tuning into that. And maybe we'll get that up on this channel and do a live watch along for that. Maybe we'll have to get Mark and as well to pick up the pace for that, because we'll have to stream for 24 hours straight. Yeah, just checking our comment section here. No more new comments from you guys. Do be sure to drop some more comments for me if you have some more questions or any new articles that have come out while I have been on this live news video here. Moving on though to another bit of news here. McLaren have bought a new rear wing to this next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. McLaren have said that they have not achieved even half of what it wants to do with their aerodynamics of its Formula 1 car, despite recent impressive progress with Lando Norris. I will say that from the car we had in Bahrain, with the improvements in Baku, then in Austria, we're not happy as of yet, but we are making the correct improvements necessary. So McLaren have brought new rear wings for this Japanese Grand Prix. It looks like they have interesting little winglets on the back of the wing. It might just be protectors, but if those are little winglets, that would certainly be very, very interesting to see nonetheless. Moving on though to another one, seeing some new helmets that are being brought in by the Grand Prix drivers ahead of this weekend. We have Zhou Guanyu bringing in a new helmet. He's got a dark blue helmet with houndstooth designs on that for this weekend. We've also got Lewis Hamilton bringing in a striking new helmet. It's chrome, so it's a battle of the chrome helmets this year. We've had Lando Norris with a chrome helmet, and now Lewis Hamilton has a chrome helmet. I will say it looks incredibly cool. It looks really, really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that out on track. Yeah, really, really cool. Mark saying, I'm not commentating for 24 hours, but yes, we can have a look at that. Moving on to another bit of information. Who else have we got with a new helmet? Oh, we've also got Fernando Alonso with a new helmet, a Japanese-inspired helmet. That looks also really, really awesome ahead of this Grand Prix race weekend. And then just moving on to our last bit of information here this weekend. And the title of our video, Sebastian Vettel has gathered all of the Formula 1 drivers around Corner 2 in Suzuka for a gathering and a bit of sustainability ahead of the Suzuka Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel has gone and set up another set of B hotels in Corner 2 of another Grand Prix circuit. He's done this before in Austria, and he has now done this here in Suzuka in Turn 2. It's going to be Buzzing Corner, and they have repainted the curbs there black and yellow, which I find quite awesome. And then they got all of the drivers together here today. It was actually this morning that they got them all together, everyone out on track, including Robert Schwartzman, and Mick Schumacher was there, so glad to see Mick Schumacher was at least able to see his old friend Sebastian Vettel. And they are, as I said, they all got together, painted some drawings, each team got allocated a beehive, and they each decorated a little bit, but really glad to see all of the drivers getting together for sustainability and to just take part in something really, really exciting for the sport. And of course, it's always amazing to see Lewis Hamilton back in Formula 1 and at a Grand Prix race weekend. Hopefully, we'll maybe see him in the paddock this weekend. I hope to see him on some commentating. Maybe that could be quite cool. But we'll have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz was also notably quite late for his for that meeting of all the drivers. He arrived quite late to that. Just reading a little bit of a blurb from Formula 1. They said, welcome to Buzzing Corner. Sebastian Vettel brought together all of the teams and drivers of Suzuka to build B hotels on the inside of Turn 2 as part of his biodiversity project. The curbs have been momentarily been painted black and yellow too. Yeah, so very, very cool to see that Sebastian Vettel is here this weekend. And yeah, let's see what some of you guys say here in the comment section. TC saying the McLaren has improved so much since the beginning of the race season up until now, as well as Senna's helmet color is the all-time best for me. Yes, of course, that iconic helmet from Ayrton Senna will, of course, always be one of the most iconic in the sport. But it is always really cool to see these Formula 1 drivers changing up their helmets for different race weekends now that they are able to do that. Just checking Twitter for any more news articles for you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off for you here today. Yeah, just having a look here in Twitter. Nothing too much else that I can see other than a lot of upgrades and a lot of circuit-specific rear wings that are being brought here. It is a medium downforce circuit here in Suzuka, so we're seeing a medium force rear wing for Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, as well as the Alpines. Also looking at some interesting brake shrouds for the Red Bulls. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of the issues that they had in Singapore. Supposedly they're bringing back those flaws that they had in Singapore that they tried to test out. As well as, yeah, if that doesn't work, then maybe they'll just have to revert back to their old spec flaws. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does work for them in qualifying, as well as all of the practice sessions. Just before signing off with you here today, we're going to take one more look at the 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. I'm trying to find the latest one here. I've got one here now from Racing News 365. The 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. After a washout last year, could we be in store for the same at Suzuka this year? The Suzuka circuit will play host to the Japanese Grand Prix, the 16th round of the 2023 Formula 1 campaign. After a dry weekend at Singapore and Monza, it looks set to change with rain affecting some of the weekend at Suzuka. According to our friends at WeareOnline.com, September is a wet month in Suzuka, with an average of 195mm of rain. The Grand Prix weekend will see lots of clouds and showers on Friday for the morning practice session. In the afternoon, though, the shower chance decreases, which is favourable for the second practice session. Rain, though, could impact the weekend. Over the weekend, the chance of showers is smaller, as cloud cover and sun alternate. It is not guaranteed to be dry, and a local shower remains possible, especially on Sunday. Due to the local nature of that shower, there's a good chance it will miss Suzuka should it rain during the Sunday's race. The precipitation will be brief and not compared to last year's rain though. Currently, it is tropically hot in Japan, and in the Suzuka region, it is 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. After Friday's rain, it will be less warm, and over the weekend, it will be around 28 degrees Celsius. So glad to see that it is going to be good weather, at least in Suzuka this race weekend. And just going over a little bit of stats of this Suzuka Grand Prix, all the most important facts and stats that you need to know ahead of this weekend in Suzuka. The vital statistics of this Grand Prix. The first Grand Prix held here was in 1987, with its track length being 5.807 kilometers. The lap record set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019 is a 1 minute and 30.9 seconds. The most pole positions around here is Michael Schumacher with 8, and the most wins by also Michael Schumacher with 6. Suzuka is the only figure of 8 track on the Formula 1 calendar at the moment, and the pole run to turn 1 breaking point is 277 meters. Well, we are certainly looking forward to this weekend in Suzuka. It is one of my favorite circuits on the calendar. We'll also be getting up a race or gaming stream for all of you guys that will be part of our build-up package for this weekend. We're going to be joining you bright and early tomorrow morning. It is going to be my birthday, so do be sure to join us in the comment section for that and send all of your wishes. It's going to be a very, very early stream, so hopefully all of you guys will be able to join us. But if you're not, do be sure to just go and watch that replay, watch the highlights from that session. We will be uploading, of course, our review of the first and second practice sessions that are being held tomorrow. The first one is at 4 a.m. South African time. Second practice session, I think, is at 8 a.m. Let me just double check my schedule. 4:30 a.m. is free practice 1. 8 a.m. is free practice 2. So very bright and early, but we will be joining you bright and early for that. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here today for my Formula 1 daily news video. It has been very good to join all of you guys again. Great to have you all here in the comment section. TC saying great news updates, appreciate it. And Mark just saying thank you very much. Thank you guys all for joining me. I have been Reece here on Forever Motorsports. Cheers. Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content. And we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports. Here you're joined by myself, Mark and Reece, for our weekly, or most of the time, weekly Forever F1 podcast. Of course, this is on Tuesday today. And let us know where you're watching from. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content like this for our weekly podcast. So we're going to go through lots of news today. Of course, the main thing that we're going to be talking about is that driver position in AlphaTauri. Who's going to take that seat next year? And Reece busy got his phone coming off as he's trying to go get the comments, I'm sure. Yes. But yes, anyway, so we're going to look at a few articles and also answer some of your questions and otherwise. Let's go and have a look. So Reece, of course, Red Bull are facing a bit of a dilemma in terms of who's going to take that seat. Of course, De Vries was fired earlier this year. Removed from that seat. Daniel Ricciardo came in to replace him, and then Daniel Ricciardo broke his hand, and then Liam Lawson came in to replace him, of course. And now Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo, both of them, been outperforming Yuki Tsunoda since their arrival into the sport, which then puts his seat at risk. So, what's going to happen here, Reece?
I think certainly the biggest issue for Red Bull and AlphaTauri this year has been the fact that Daniel Ricciardo did come in as their second driver, replacing Nick De Vries. Yes, that one. And then, of course, he broke his hand after outperforming Yuki Tsunoda, doing quite well. He already is pretty much a given that he's got that seat, so we know he's not going to be replaced, that's for sure. It's that second seat. It's either going to be Yuki Tsunoda or Liam Lawson. Liam Lawson has now come into Formula 1, and in his third race has scored points, and not just a single point. He scored 2 points. He's finished 9th in Singapore, the toughest race on the calendar. And he did really well there. I think he deserves to get a full-time seat. But the reports that are coming out are that Yuki Tsunoda might possibly be having his contract renewed in the next race in Japan.
Well, as I say, it would be very obviously poignant to have it in Japan because that is, of course, his home race. There for the Japanese driver. So let's just go read a little bit of articles here and discuss this further. So AlphaTauri's crazy 2024 driver seat Ruby Goldberg machine that began with Nick De Vries' Formula 1 dismissal had another element added to it after the 2023 Singapore Grand Prix. Liam Lawson is an F1 point-scoring driver following the New Zealanders' Marina Bay heroics to cross the line into P9. Furthermore, he created headlines on Saturday after his Q2 effort kicked out Max Verstappen in terms of out of the top 10 for that Q3 session, creating an unpredictable grid that battled for the race win. So showing such potential only 3 rounds into his Formula 1 career means that Lawson has cannonballed rather than thrown his hat into the ring for a 2024 seat. I don't think we can argue with that. He's been very, very good since coming into the sport.
Yes, and I think what you really have to look at now off the back of the Singapore Grand Prix, yes, of course, Yuki Tsunoda was unfortunate that he was actually, it wasn't an engine failure like we thought it was. Reviewing the footage this afternoon, I saw was that he was hit into by Sergio Perez on the first lap, which caused him a puncture, which, of course, ended his race, unfortunately. So 2 races in a row, he hasn't been able to show what he can do compared to Liam Lawson. But Liam Lawson now has 2 points, and Yuki Tsunoda only has 3 for the season. So it's really, really close between those two. If Liam Lawson once again outscores Yuki Tsunoda this next race weekend in Japan, I think Yuki Tsunoda is going to be under a lot of pressure if they haven't already given him that race seat.
It's exactly that. It's going to be under a lot of pressure, and he needs to really finish in Japan. It's going to be his home Grand Prix, of course, so he wants to do well. He needs to score points here as well. I think that's a big thing that he needs to do. That's going to play in his mind. They had upgrades this weekend. Yuki Tsunoda couldn't really make use of them due to that puncture caused by Sergio Perez. So certainly going to be up to grats. However, we talk about the other one who came into that seat to replace Nick De Vries originally, who was unfortunately out injured and will come back to replace Lawson, of course, towards the end of the season, that being Daniel Ricciardo. And he's shown that he was no slouch with his cameo performances in Hungary and Belgium. However, the Australian might be sweating that his injury could cost him a chance of a full-time comeback next year. Then, of course, we talk about Yuki Tsunoda continuing to grow as a driver by taking the underpowered AlphaTauri to 3 top-10 finishes over the season. He hasn't completed a race, though, as we said, since the Dutch Grand Prix. So, That's 3 worthy drivers without 2024 contracts as of yet, with 2 seats available, meaning that sadly one of these names needs to lose out. So quite frankly, let's ask the very blunt question to all of you who are watching. Who do you want to see not get that seat? Who do you want to see as the 2 drivers for AlphaTauri? And Reece, I think I'm going to go straight to you. Who are the 2 drivers you want to have in that AlphaTauri team?
Well, I know what's most likely, and I know what my heart wants. I'd love to see a Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo line up there at AlphaTauri. I think that would be phenomenal in terms of potential for scoring points. I know that's a bit harsh on Yuki Tsunoda, who's been in the seat for 3 years now, but I think that's exactly why. I think he's had his turn and hasn't shown anything spectacular. Everyone keeps saying he needs to grow up a little bit more, but we never see it enough. And he always has these tantrums over the radio, and he never seems to just take that step up and actually learn and grow from his mistakes.
It is an interesting one because he pretty much treats everyone else around him like he's a spoiled child. You know, he's a bit like a teenager brat, if I may. And I don't mean to be mean to Yuki Tsunoda and his antics, but you know, there's a certain level of maturity that's required in Formula One and in all sport at a certain level. This is the highest form of motorsport in the world, and you expect a certain level of level-headedness, I suppose, which you don't get from Yuki Tsunoda. He's very passionate, I'll give him that, but I think a bit too bratty, I think, is a good word to use. So it requires a lot of calming that down. And I think that's also another reason why some people don't necessarily like him as much, because every single time something goes wrong, you've got this complete temper tantrum coming from Yuki Tsunoda each time.
I mean, I wouldn't say he's bratty. I'd definitely say he's very hot-headed, because, as you say, he can be quite hot under the helmet, and he has some very fiery exchanges with his race engineers and with the pit wall. Quite a lot of the time, they're having to calm him down throughout the race if he's made a small mistake or if he's been given a penalty for something. It takes a very, very long time for him to cool down under the helmet, and he just hasn't seemed to grow up and take that step up from that point just yet. But I mean, I'd love to see him still in Formula One, but I think Liam Lawson has showed that he's able to outperform him.
Yeah, and I suppose another thing that you always have to look at in Formula One, and I know it's not something you're supposed to, but it is something we have to because of the modern age requirements, that you need to be somewhat of a personality. And I suppose there he does have a little bit of a personality. Everyone knows that he is this sort of character. He's very hot-headed during the race and with his answers, but otherwise he's quite a quiet person. Before the race starts, he's always there sitting by himself, very much by not engaging with anybody. He's not quite the character outside of the car as Formula One might demand of you. But having said that, neither is Liam Lawson really. He's also a very quiet character, doesn't seem to get around too much. It's not quite like the other third driver here that's in contention, like Daniel Ricciardo, who's of course loves the lights, loves the camera, and loves putting on a show for everyone. So it's another thing you have to look at. Obviously, it's very minimal, but I think for that, who would you prefer to have?
Well, as I say already, I think that Daniel Ricciardo has got that seat as a given already. I think the marketability that he brings to a Formula One team is huge, and the likes of Adidas or Hugo Boss would love to have him on board to work with, because just imagine getting him in marketing campaigns. He is such a personality, he's also, just to say, he's a good-looking guy. So, I mean, he's really easy to use for marketing. So they'd love to have him a part of that team, and I think that's already a given, especially with his relationship with Red Bull.
And, of course, it does also come down to Yuki Tsunoda's financing by Honda. Of course, he is sponsored by Honda, and Honda are financing a lot of his career. Now, where's Honda moving, of course, because they're moving away from the Red Bull team. So, does that put Yuki Tsunoda's seat in contention in terms of being swapped out with somebody else? You see, because Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo, there's no reasons why they wouldn't be able to stay on there in AlphaTauri and that Red Bull racing setup, because of course both of them are there. Whereas Yuki Tsunoda is a little bit on the edge of that because of that Honda deal. So that also plays into it, I think, and that maybe is the one thing that sort of says maybe he doesn't quite get that seat, although we do predict that he's probably going to get that seat. It's a difficult one.
I think that he's going to lose out on it because of the fact that Honda's moving away from Red Bull. They want to start moving towards the future. I mean, sure, it would be a love story, of course, for Yuki and Honda to have him extended into 2024 and onwards, possibly, but I don't see that happening, unfortunately, because of the fact that Honda has decided to split ways with Red Bull for the future. They're going towards possibly Aston Martin.
Well, let us know in the comments what do you think is going to happen. Who are the two drivers you want to race for AlphaTauri next season? I think I will certainly say I want Lawson and Ricciardo. I think Lawson's going to get a lot of points. I think he's going to be someone to watch in Formula One. I think he's going to be a great driver. Daniel Ricciardo, of course, we know what he's done. He's raced for big teams, done very well, won a few races, of course.
Exactly,
race winner. He knows what he's doing in that seat, and of course, is a proper good personality to have on the grid. Yuki Tsunoda, however, yes, is improving, but has not really shown enough for me yet in Formula One. This is his second season, of course. Third season. What am I talking about? Third season. Just tells you how nebulous the one season was. But, we haven't really seen massive improvements. I mean, 3 points this season. Yes, the car's not been great. It's been one of the worst cars on the grid. However, we've seen Nico Hülkenberg come into that Haas team and done unbelievable things for them. We've seen other drivers come into the teams that are not so powered and done some great stuff. Yuki Tsunoda's not really had that shining performance that everyone goes, my word, look at this as a driver. This is a hell of a driver.
But people have been saying that about Liam Lawson as soon as he stepped in. He's been the underdog since as soon as he got into that seat, because it was mid-weekend already at a really difficult track. And since then, he's just really performed very well. He was very close to the points in Monza and now has gotten points in Singapore.
So hence one then looks at Yuki Tsunoda and says, well, what have you been doing? Because you've been there for 15 plus races this season. So what's happening there? We're looking at our poll right now in terms of who do you think should take that AlphaTauri seat. We've got only just 5 votes there, but let's go and look. Not a single person, notably, voting for Tsunoda. So,
very interesting.
Basically saying Lawson and Ricciardo should be taking those seats, with the majority of the votes saying that Lawson should be dubbed basically number one driver. So it's a very, very interesting little vote poll there, and be sure to go and give your thoughts on it if you agree. But yeah, I think basically we're both in agreement. We're saying Lawson, Ricciardo should take that seat. Tsunoda should be axed. If Tsunoda gets axed,
yes.
If Tsunoda gets axed, where does he go?
I don't know. I think he'd have to be out of a seat. He'd possibly be a reserve driver for Red Bull. But I think that it's difficult for Tsunoda in terms of the fact that what do Red Bull do now? They may as well just carry on delaying making the decision on his contract. They don't have to make that decision at all. They hold the monopoly. They own the team. They can go, well, we were going to make the decision in Suzuka, but we're just going to wait and see what happens in Suzuka with the last race weekend with Lawson before hopefully Ricciardo gets back into that seat, and then we'll make our decision for 2024. It's really hard, of course, and harsh on Tsunoda, but I mean, when you have that opportunity as a team to weigh up your driver against someone else, why not take the opportunity?
Well, that's a very interesting point there, of course, brought up there. So Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo, Tsunoda, who takes that seat next year? Let us know in the comments, and we'll obviously monitor that situation as it happens for the remainder of the season. Will Yuki Tsunoda get offered that contract this weekend in his home Grand Prix, or will it be delayed? Maybe Ricciardo comes back into the seat to replace Lawson again, or maybe out of nowhere they say to Yuki Tsunoda, actually, quite frankly, could you just step out of the seat for the remainder of the season?
That would be very harsh.
But yeah, wow. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening at all. So I think Tsunoda will finish the season off with Ricciardo, of course. They won't say no to Ricciardo. You won't go back to that seat. I'm sure they'll give it back to him. Lawson will then take a break. But then next season, does Lawson come back in place of Tsunoda? That's going to be the interesting things we need to find out. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that. Now, let's move on to something else here. So I've got a little article here. It says 10 things we learned about the 2023 F1 Singapore Grand Prix. This, of course, leading up to the Suzuka Grand Prix here. Suzuka, I'll get there eventually.
Suzuka's in South Africa.
Suzuka, same. The Suzuka Grand Prix there in Japan. So, Carlos Sainz scored the first victory of 2023 for a team other than Red Bull. Of course, that's fantastic news, and everyone was very, very ecstatic, even though Ferrari did really stuff up their strategy quite a lot. Carlos Sainz just being very clever and using Lando Norris to assist in getting that victory. If they didn't work together, probably would have been a different story. So yeah, it was fantastic. It wasn't, however, a flash in the pan for the Ferrari team on a weekend that the year's dominant Formula One team appeared oddly subdued, with both cars missing the Q3 cut. Another piece of the 2024 market driver jigsaw slotted into place, and here's what we learned about that race in Singapore.
Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. Bitdefender is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much.
Red Bull was finally toppled. That's the one thing. That their car is not invincible. Is not unbeatable. However, it's still very strong. I think it's definitely
they're
something.
going to be strong back after
Yeah,
the
I think Japan, they'll be very strong yet again. I think we're probably going to see a Red Bull 1-2 or something similar to that this weekend. But great to see that Red Bull can be undone in certain circuits.
And I'm interested to see that it didn't happen at Monaco this year because they were all right. I wonder if they just tried... I was reading reports that they tried some new floor setups this race weekend. They tried new floors. And maybe they just didn't work because, of course, they've had those reduced aerodynamic tunnel testing. So maybe they just tried to put some upgrades in without having used the wind tunnel, and they haven't worked.
Yeah, well, and of course, the big thing that everyone was talking about over the weekend, attributing Red Bull's downfall in terms of the weekend and their positions in qualifying, not making it to Q3 for both drivers, was the flexi wing clampdown by the FIA, which everyone reckoned that was the main reason. But Red Bull came out and said that no, they didn't. Didn't have to change much at all for the weekend.
Yes,
so,
and I have information that actually debunks all of that because, as I said, they were having issues with those new upgrades that they had. They went back to their old spec wings or old spec floors.
So to tell you.
They were fine again. They had pace for the race at least, but of course missed out in qualifying because they had less running time to set the car up. But yeah, very interesting to see that they weren't necessarily hindered by those flexi-wing clampdowns and the new technical directive that was introduced in Singapore. But we'll have to wait and see whether they are going to be competitive in Suzuka in Japan.
Now, the next thing, of course, we learned from the weekend was the fact that Sainz has been putting on quite a lot of form these past few weekends and doesn't show a sign of ending, as it's only going up and up and up for the Ferrari driver as he went and won this past weekend there in Singapore. So, what do you think he can do this weekend?
Well, he's certainly been putting a lot of pressure on Charles Leclerc. He's been outperforming him in every single race weekend so far. From the second half of the season, I am very surprised to see that Charles Leclerc hasn't been doing all that well. And here's another point saying Ferrari's recent car changes have hurt Leclerc in the 2022 Verstappen way. I don't know what that means, but yeah, it's interesting that the new sort of car in 2023 does not suit Charles Leclerc's driving style, who's meant to be the number one driver at that team, but
not
is
anymore,
now no. He is the number two
really
driver in terms of performance.
I think Sainz has really shown his class these past few race weekends and has been consistent. And again, we always talk about consistency being a big thing in Formula One, and I think Leclerc has really struggled with that. Not just this season. Last season he was doing, they had a much better car last season in terms of competing with Red Bull, and he wasn't consistent enough as a driver to do anything last season. And this season, I think it's been even worse for him. So it's a real crux period for Leclerc now going into next season, because next season he really needs to fix not just obviously the team that he's with, but his own driving. He needs to make sure that he is out and out the number one driver, because if you've got the same car as Carlos Sainz and you're supposed to be the number one driver, you cannot be outperformed by him on a regular basis.
He needs to be more involved with the entire design of the car. He needs to become involved behind the scenes as much as possible back in Maranello. He needs to build the team around himself so that they design a car that suits his driving style, not Carlos Sainz's specifically. I don't think they've done it on purpose. I think that's just the way that the development of this year's car has gone, and that's why Carlos Sainz has really benefited. Just looking at the next point, George Russell must learn from the Singapore race crash to reach his full Formula One potential. George Russell, unfortunate there. I see we do have a comment from TT.
Yes,
we'll
we
speak
do.
about that in a second.
First,
George Russell in the final lap of the race was really, really close to the back of Lando Norris. Lando Norris said he made the exact same mistake on the same lap. He touched the barrier a little bit into turn 10, I think it was. Yes, it was turn 10. And Lando Norris said he was fine, but George Russell hit it a little bit harder, breaking his front right suspension and going into the barrier.
I think probably George Russell was following him a little too closely and tried to follow his line and thought, you know, closer. And then because Norris touched the wall ever so slightly, Russell's maybe a little bit wider, trying to think, because he's thinking immediately after this turn, I'm going to make the dive around the outside. So I think that's maybe why he was a little bit wider, and that's why he was outdone by that wall. But he was basically in tears after the Grand Prix, talking about that incident. And I mean,
he was apparently very, very upset. We've seen this in the past. He's a very emotional character, and I think it just speaks to the fact that he puts so much into his racing and really gives it his all and puts his entire heart and soul into it. That's what a racing driver is. There's so much adrenaline, and you put everything on the line as a driver. Of course, you're putting your life at risk at the same time. So, yeah, just reading what TC said here, they said, I think if Lawson gives more consistent results in the next races, then he should get the seat. I agree there, TC, but I do think he's got a limited one more opportunity.
He's got a limited opportunity though, because Ricciardo will come back, and I'm fairly certain Red Bull won't be that harsh and go and say to Danny Rick after coming back for 2 races and then having to unfortunately sit out due to those injuries. I don't think they're going to go and say to Ricciardo, no, you're not going to come back into the seat. Sorry, better luck next time. So I'm sure he'll come back into that seat, which means Lawson's only got this weekend to prove his worth and to prove why he should take that seat away. So that's certainly going to be an interesting thing. I see somebody now has voted for Tsunoda in that poll, so it's continuously growing there. And TC just saying there, Russell probably felt he let the team down, a lot of points lost. Well, yeah, it was a lot of points lost. But I also think, just for Russell's personal drivers' championship,
it's been a difficult year for him. So I think it would have been really good for his self-confidence to get that podium, and this really has maybe given him a bit of an off.
It was the first time that we saw Russell finally get to grips with that car, because of course when they made that change and they made that decision to go back to side pods on that car, Hamilton was suddenly really struggling and has been struggling for a fair while, and Russell then of course did brilliantly this weekend.
Russell was fine with 0 side pods.
Yes.
Then Hamilton was fine with side pods.
Yes.
And now it took a really long time for Russell.
That's what I mean. I meant the other way around. Sorry.
I got what you meant.
I meant the other way around. But yes, so Russell was finally getting to grips with the car and was going to show it this weekend in terms of beating Hamilton and doing really, really well, then crashing out. I think that's a big confidence booster because he was on the right trajectory for himself, and then the crash. Of course, that's Mercedes. We're talking about things that happened in Singapore. The unfortunate thing, and the thing that I do get a little bit upset about, is that of Fernando Alonso.
Difficult race for Alonso on Sunday, unfortunately. On a weekend to forget for Aston Martin, and before he put it in an oddly poor and mistake-riddled race performance, Fernando Alonso raised eyebrows with his comments on Formula One's knockout qualifying system. The Q1, 2 and 3 format has been in place since 2006, bars Formula One's short-lived experiment with the elimination qualifying in 2016, and is popular with fans. In Singapore, though, the usual maximum lap time procedure installed to stop drivers going unnecessarily slowly and causing traffic issues was scrapped following a driver's vote. But when traffic nevertheless becomes a problem, particularly in Q1, Alonso suggested another previously used format should be considered instead. Whatever the FIA do, we will find a way to sail that kind of rule, he said. They have a very difficult job in terms of managing traffic on street circuits. I've said many times that there is only one way to find a solution, which is single lap qualifying, last used in various arrangements in 3 years running up to 2006. All the other solutions we can test, but will never work because we will find a way. I think the qualifying format is obsolete. It has been the same for 20 to 25 years. But the cars are not the same. We have hybrid engines. We have to charge the battery. We have to cool the tires. So the only way to go forward is 1 lap qualifying.
Well, I think also another reason why he should probably say 1 lap qualifying
it
is
would
because
benefit him.
It would benefit him quite significantly. He's one of the few drivers that can nail his lap straight away, whereas a couple of the others will have 1 or 2 attempts, and then 1 of the 2 attempts will be good enough. So, of course, he's going to say that, but I don't quite disagree with him. In certain tracks like Singapore, traffic does become a massive problem. Traditional circuits like Japan won't be nearly as much of a problem. It should be fine.
But it should be used for really tight street circuits like maybe Saudi Arabia, maybe Monaco here, of course. And then moving on to what happened to Fernando Alonso's teammate here this last weekend. He had a massive crash in qualifying. We really are glad to see that he walked away from that car unhurt. Of course, he did sit out of the race on Sunday because the car wasn't able to be rebuilt, as well as he was still quite sore from that accident. But it was a huge incident that saw Lance Stroll smashing into the wall at the end of his lap into turn 19.
And once more, just costing Aston Martin more valuable points. At the end of the day, take away the sympathies with Stroll. It's another crash. It's another letdown performance. It's another ruined race weekend for Aston Martin where one driver did all right and the other did not. So, again, everyone keeps having eyes on Stroll. How much longer is he going to stay in the sport? That's a big question. How much longer can he stay in the sport?
It's really difficult to judge right now because, of course, his dad owns the team. I don't think you can really give him an exit date until he's ready to leave. Well, because I think that's how it's going to be.
Somebody needs to make the decision. Somebody needs to go and say, listen, pull up your socks or get out of the team. Go play tennis or something. Go start your own business. I'm sure his dad can loan him a small loan of $1 million or something similar. But really, I think it's a real problem because he's in quite a decent car. He's got a very good teammate, of course, and he's not performing anywhere near the levels that we expect from the Aston Martin driver.
Yes, well, also looking at another point from this last weekend in Singapore, the new enforced Singapore changes were popular with the drivers. Of course, there were those changes to the track for this last race weekend. Due to the construction going on in the Marina Bay, they revised the last sector of the track to remove the old turns 15, 16, 17, and 18 and put a straight there, and then there was a chicane before the final sector. It made it actually quite exciting in terms of racing and raceability, with drivers getting really close into that sector and then allowing them to follow even close into the final sector and getting some overtakes there.
Well, it's exactly that. I think it actually benefited the Singapore Grand Prix. So quite frankly, keep it. I know they said it's temporary just for that construction, but keep it. I think everybody quite enjoyed it. It also made, it's a very long lap otherwise. a 1 minute 42, 1 minute 41 is the fastest lap you saw in the previous circuit. The new circuit just for this last weekend was a 131, 132. So it's, you lost 10 seconds there. It's actually quite beneficial for us fans. It's quite nice to see shorter laps because shorter laps means we can see the same sort of periods and people can follow a little bit closer and have longer battles. So it's a bit more fun to watch. So personally, I'm all for it. Keep it there. That's my opinion. But we'll go to it. CC also saying it's better to keep Stroll as driver than to make him a technical director. Lol. I definitely think that's an interesting point.
Yes, I don't know how he would do as a technical director at all. So I think, yes, keep him maybe behind the wheel for now. But I don't know about whether his dad or anyone else in the team is ever going to be able to tell him to get out.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So I think that's pretty much wrapping up a lot of the stuff that we had to talk about this podcast and this week. So thank you guys so much for joining us. I'm not going just yet. I'm just going to talk about a couple of last things, and that's the fact that we've talked about the other three drivers in that AlphaTauri seat, Tsunoda, Ricciardo, and Lawson, in terms of who's going to take those two seats for next year, and we've had our discussions about that. Me and Reece both think Lawson and Ricciardo and Tsunoda can just chill on the sidelines. But whatever happened to De Vries?
So, Nick De Vries, I spoke about it a little bit in my morning news show, but if you didn't follow that, Nick De Vries is planning a sports car switch following his Formula 1 exit. The Dutchman is eyeing a switch to the World Endurance Championship following his mid-season exit from AlphaTauri. Nick De Vries could make a switch back to sports car racing following his exit from AlphaTauri mid-season this year. The Dutchman was replaced by Daniel Ricciardo after only 10 races at the team, with AlphaTauri opting for more experience as they look to turn around their season.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So De Vries has previously raced in the World Endurance Championship with TDS Racing and Racing Team Netherlands, achieving a best finish of 4th in class at the Le Mans 24-hour race.
Yes, and he's reportedly set to race with Toyota in the hypercar class, replacing Jose Maria Lopez and racing alongside Kamuya Kobayashi and Mike Conway in the number 7 car for the 2024 World Endurance Championship season. De Vries was previously named as the official test and reserve driver for the 2020 and 21 season with Toyota, and was due to contest the 2023 season with the team alongside a season with Maserati in Formula E before his AlphaTauri call-up, which allowed him to get out of his 2023 contract with Toyota because he had a clause in it for if he got a contract with a Formula 1 team. So unfortunate though that he did get dropped from that team. And at least now Toyota is still interested in his services for 2024 and onwards in World Endurance Championships.
Quite apart from anything else, I'm just quite impressed that Kamui could be actually still racing. I mean, that's been a while.
Yes, of course he is.
Yeah, but
I mean, Fernando Alonso is still racing.
Yeah, but Kobayashi was years ago. And
I'm going to Google right now.
I know, it's fine. I mean, yes, he is young. I know he is younger than Alonso, but it's just, certain drivers, you just feel have been there and done that. When they leave Formula One, you just forget about them. And I think that's definitely one of those. But yes, nonetheless, it looks like Nick Vries is leaving Formula One.
He's 37, Mark. So he's not that old. He still has a long racing career ahead of him. And he's been doing very, very well in World Endurance Championship with Toyota. But nonetheless, that brings us to an end of our podcast here today. Thank you very much for all of you for joining us. As I see TC says, thank you, gents. Thank you very much for joining us, TC. Yes, we have been here on Forever Motorsports for our Forever F1 podcast. I've been Reece.
I've been Mark.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, 131.6 seconds for his fastest lap time in that session. So Red Bull looking again dominant, and Sainz in second and Norris in third.
Yes, it certainly was a very interesting practice session, the first practice session out here in Japan. It did start raining at the end of the session, but luckily the session was relatively unscathed from the weather. We might get a little bit of rain within FP2, but we'll have to wait and see. That does start at 8 a.m, so in the next 2.5 hours. But off the back of that session, just to read our top 10, Max Verstappen finishes that session up in P1. A much better session for him off the back of the Singapore Grand Prix. A dismal weekend for the Red Bulls. Really a weekend to forget. But right now they seem to be bouncing back and finding a lot more pace with their upgrades. Max Verstappen finishing that session with a 131.6 seconds being his fastest lap time that he put on the board there. Carlos Sainz then in P2, Lando Norris in P3, Charles Leclerc then the second Ferrari in P4, Yuki Tsunoda finding some great pace with the upgraded AlphaTauri up in P5, Fernando Alonso P6, Oscar Piastri P7, Alex Albon also finding some great pace in his Williams up in P8, Liam Lawson P9 and Lance Stroll in P10. Then Mark for the bottom 10.
Yes, indeed. So Perez all the way down in 11th though. So whilst Verstappen has improved upon his times in this week compared to last week, Perez is yet to do that, but I'm sure we'll see that change in practice too. Then we've got Pierre Gasly in 12th, Russell in 13th, Hülkenberg 14th, 15th is Ocon, 16th is Hamilton, 17th Bottas, 18th Magnussen, 19th Sargeant, and 20th is Zhou. Now, do not be stressed about Mercedes being quite far down, 13th and 16th. They did not do any soft tyre runs there. So, of course, that's why their times look quite slow. But we'll see that, I'm sure, in FP2. We'll see some better times from them.
Yes, we should see some better times being put in by the Mercedes in FP2. And I'm also very interested in seeing what they're going to be able to do here this weekend. I think the circuit should also be able to suit their car off the back of a good run in Singapore. So we'll have to wait and see what is going to happen in FP2. But certainly a very interesting FP1 session here in Japan. Always great to see cars out here in the Suzuka track. Such a beautiful track with a great flow. Drivers certainly really enjoying it out there. And really looking forward to seeing what's going to happen throughout the rest of this race weekend.
Indeed. So now we've just finished off with practice one, Reece. Now, where do you think we're going to see drivers finish up in qualifying tomorrow, just based off that practice? I know it's very, very little to go off of. But,
it's very early on, but of course I think Max Verstappen is showing some early dominance out here on the circuit. I don't know if it's a little bit too early to make the call between McLaren and Ferrari, though, just yet. I'd love to say I want McLaren maybe to have a little bit better pace. The circuit should maybe suit them a bit better, as well as the Aston Martin should be very fast around here. So I'm going to say Verstappen's going to be fastest. I think Sergio Perez should be able to bounce back a little bit better as well and put his car a little bit further up the grid. And then I'm going to say I think the Ferraris are going to be able to eke it out ahead of the McLarens this race weekend. So
okay.
First the Red Bulls, then second the Ferraris, third the McLarens.
Okay, so very, very interesting predictions there. I'm actually going to say Red Bull first, McLaren second, and then the Ferraris. As we did see a stat earlier in the session, Ferrari have not won here for many years, 19 years to be exact.
Since 2004.
So it's not looking likely that they're going to continue on their form from last weekend with Science 1, of course. So we'll see what happens in FP2, which is going to be later today. But nonetheless, that was our FP1 review. Thank you so much for watching, of course. We'll see you in the next one.
Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with BITDEFENDER, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on BITDEFENDER, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, BITDEFENDER, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much.
Japan Free Practice 2. This is the review on Forever Motorsports. My name is Mark. Reece is alongside me, of course. We've just finished there on a red flag, which we did call would happen, unfortunately. Pierre Gasly ending that session slightly early, going into the wall after locking up into turn 9, which has been a problem for lots of drivers in that session and today so far, and I think it will be a problem for the race weekend as a whole. But Max Verstappen once again dominant, a 130.688, Leclerc a 131.008, and Norris a 131.152. So Norris in third in the first session and the second session, Leclerc and Sainz swapping out in the first and second sessions. Leclerc this time a little bit faster than his teammate. Verstappen still in first after that first session, Reece.
It's really exciting to see so far that at the moment, of course, Max Verstappen is the only driver in the 130s, but the rest of the drivers we have from Charles Leclerc all the way down to Lewis Hamilton in 14th. They're all in the 131s. All in the 131. Well, the slowest 131 is Hamilton with a 131.8. And then you've got Charles Leclerc's time with a 131.008. So really competitive times out there at the moment and really close times. So I think qualifying is going to be very, very exciting for us tomorrow. Of course, just making our way through that top 10, Max Verstappen took that top spot there, with Charles Leclerc quite closely behind in second, Lando Norris then the first of the McLarens there in third. Carlos Sainz in fourth, George Russell in fifth, Fernando Alonso in sixth. Alex Albon seventh, having a great day out there in that Williams car. He got quite close to the top there in the middle of that free practice 2 session. Then Oscar Piastri in 8th, Sergio Perez in 9th, not finding all that much time out there on track today. Weird to see him quite far off the pace of his teammates. Then we have Valtteri Bottas finishing up top 10.
Yes, indeed. And then we go into our bottom 10. Lance Stroll in 11th position. Ocon in 12th. Hülkenberg in 13th. And Hamilton in 14th. The slowest of those 131 drivers. Then we move to the 132s. Liam Lawson, unfortunately, down in 15th. Zhou Guanyu in 16th. He had quite a lot of floor damage from turn 9 earlier and had to go into the pits. And they were working on the car. So, yeah, just shows turn 9 is definitely a problem for a lot of drivers. Magnussen in 17th. 18th is Tsunoda in his home Grand Prix. Not great for him there. Pierre Gasly, of course, after that red flag that he caused, crashing out in turn 9, trying to put some decent pace in. Yeah, finishes 19th. And Logan Sargeant down in 20th. His regular position. It's reserved for him. Poor man.
Yes, well, it's certainly looking like it's going to be a competitive day tomorrow. I'm certainly looking forward to FP3 and qualifying later on in the morning. But I think it's going to be very competitive. I don't think it's necessarily a given right now for Max Verstappen. Of course, he is very fast, but those Ferraris seem to be able to find quite a bit of pace. They're very close at the moment to the 130s, with Charles Leclerc only 0.008 off of a 130 time. But who do you think we'll see tomorrow taking the top of the timing boards? I think Max Verstappen will still take it, but those McLarens and the Ferraris are going to be very close.
Yeah, so I think Verstappen's going to take it. I'm sure the Ferrari, Charles Leclerc and Sainz will battle it out for second, and Norris will be there and thereabouts. Russell might also find a little bit of pace. Alonso as well, I'm hoping we'll find some more pace as well. But I do think it'll probably be Ferrari, and will probably be Red Bull, then 2 Ferraris. Now, interesting to note as well, we talk about Red Bull's Verstappen doing quite well, but look at the other side, being Sergio Perez. What's happening there?
Yes, it is very weird to see Sergio Perez off the pace, but it might just be these new upgrades. He didn't really like them in Singapore either. He might be struggling with them here. They might have to go back to the old spec car that he is a bit more comfortable with. I don't blame him. They are, of course, upgrading the car in a way that they see fit, and of course, it's Max Verstappen's team, so they are going to be moving in a direction that does possibly suit him a little bit better, and that might not be giving them a car that suits Sergio Perez's drivability standards. But we'll have to wait and see what happens throughout the rest of the weekend. I'm sure Sergio Perez will be able to find out some more pace. But nonetheless, yeah, really, really exciting for the rest of this weekend out here in Suzuka.
Yeah, indeed. So we've given our predictions. Please be sure to give your predictions as to what's going to happen in qualifying and, of course, in free practice 3 tomorrow as well. In the comments, go and comment down below. Who do you think is going to top qualifying, and give you reasons why and otherwise. And also, guys, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. We'll be joining you, of course, for all the other sessions this weekend here in Suzuka, in Japan, of course. An exciting race weekend right ahead. Very early in the morning for us, but hopefully you guys will tune in and join us for it as well. You've been watching Forever Motorsports. I've been Mark. Reece has been alongside me. Thank you so much for watching this Japan Free Practice 2 review. We'll see you again very soon. Cheerio.
Hello and welcome to Forever Sports. My name is Reece. I'll be talking to you a little bit today about one of our channel partners, BITDEFENDER. BITDEFENDER is a global leader in cyber security. BITDEFENDER is committed to defending people all around the globe against cyber attacks, as well as to transform people's digital experiences. In the next 6 months, Forever Sports will be covering major tournaments such as the Rugby Championship, the Premier League, the remainder of the Formula 1 season, as well as embarking on the biggest Rugby World Cup YouTube campaign ever. To ensure that these are all a success, it is imperative that the Forever Sports channels and platforms remain uncompromised. And with Bitdefender, we can be assured that our cybersecurity needs are being taken care of. To read more on Bitdefender, please be sure to check the links in the description of our video. Once again, thank you very much to our partner, Bitdefender, for joining the channel. I've been Reece here on Forever Sports. Thank you very much. Welcome to Suzuka, home of the Japanese Grand Prix. Suzuka is a 5.807 kilometer circuit that is made up of 18 corners. The most infamous corner around Suzuka is the 130R, a high-speed left-hander that sees drivers flying through at 320 kilometers an hour. Suzuka is one of only 2 FIA Grade 1 licensed tracks to have a figure-8 layout, the other one being the Fiorano circuit. Suzuka has been on the Formula 1 calendar since 1987. The most successful driver around the circuit is Michael Schumacher, who holds the most pole positions of 8, as well as the most race wins around Suzuka with 6. The current lap record around Suzuka is a 1 minute 30.98, set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019. This circuit has become one of the Formula 1 drivers' favourite circuits on the calendar, due to the tricky circuit layout that many enjoy, as well as the extremely passionate and dedicated Japanese fans that line the circuit throughout the race weekend. Around this circuit, the probability of a safety car is high and sits around 50% for Sunday's race. With narrow margin for error, the drivers will certainly need to keep their concentration up around a lap of Suzuka. Watch now as you get taken on board for a lap around Suzuka. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more Formula 1 content, and we hope to see you during our coverage of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Motorsports here. You're joined by myself, Mark, and Reece alongside me. We've just finished the final free practice session for Suzuka this weekend, free practice 3 of course, and Max Verstappen once again goes quickest here just before qualifying, a 1:30.267, though the McLaren's hot on his heels.
Yes, certainly those McLarens look like they are the second best out there right now. Of course, second best to those Red Bulls, or Red Bull of Max Verstappen, who took that P1 spot here in free practice 3 with a 1:30.267 being his fastest lap time out there today. Lando Norris was the second fastest driver, getting quite close to Max Verstappen, 0.24 seconds behind him. And Piastri was in third, 0.28 behind Max Verstappen's fastest time. Then it was Sergio Perez, Max Verstappen's teammates, down in fourth, Charles Leclerc in fifth, Carlos Sainz in sixth. Then the two Mercedes, Hamilton and Russell in seventh and eighth. Fernando Alonso, the sole Aston Martin out there in the top 10. He's in 9th. Then Zhou Guanyu in 10th.
Yeah, these Alfa Romeos have been looking all right this weekend. Bottas in 11th, so the two Alfa Romeos vying for those top 10 positions, maybe in qualifying later. Then, of course, in 12th position, Magnussen. 13th, Ocon. 14th, Yuki Tsunoda at his home Grand Prix. 15th is Hulkenberg. 16th is Logan Sargeant. He went quicker around in fact pre-practice 3 than his teammate. Liam Lawson is in 17th. Alex Albon, being Sargeant's teammate, is only in 18th. Lance Stroll, also notably, only down in 19th compared to his teammate who's up in 9th. And Pierre Gasly in 20th compared to his teammate who's up in 13th. So Pierre Gasly, of course, had that big shunt in pre-practice 2. So maybe that was just playing a little bit into his mind in this pre-practice 3 session. So yeah, that ends our pre-practice 3 session, of course, and all the practice for the weekend. We only have qualifying in the race now, based off of what we've seen from the past 3 practice sessions, race pace and quali pace. What do you think is going to happen, in qualifying later and then the race tomorrow?
Well, let's move on to qualifying first, of course. Qualifying is going to be very interesting later. I think the McLarens are going to be very fast and able to get very close to the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. I think Sergio Perez may make a bit of a step forward in qualifying. He's in P4, as we said, at the end of FP3. Hopefully he finds another handful of time and gets a little bit closer to the likes of Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. It would be great to get a 4-way fight for pole position here this afternoon. We'll have to wait and see, though, what does happen, of course. But I think as well, one that we don't necessarily say is going to be in contention, but I don't think we can necessarily count them out just yet, is those Ferraris, and most notably the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. He has had a lot of pace out here this weekend, specifically in pre-practice 1 and 2. Yesterday he had some great pace out there, and I think he'll be able to show something in qualifying later in the next few hours.
Yes, indeed. So I'm going to be watching the Ferraris very closely, but I think those McLarens are probably most primed to challenge Max Verstappen for pole position in qualifying today. And going into the race, of course, looking at race pace, the McLarens and the Ferraris are looking quite a lot quicker than the other competitors around them. Of course, Red Bull still looking quickest for that race pace, but in terms of that vying for second place position, it looks like it's going to be a McLaren-Ferrari battle in second. The Mercedes look like they're struggling a little bit, and same as these Aston Martins. So that's what it's going to be looking like for the race. Perhaps, of course, we'll wait and see what does happen there. But yeah, so we're going to have your quali prediction there, Reece.
Well, my qualifying predictions, I'm going to say Max P1, Lando Norris P2, Sainz P3.
Okay, so you're going to have 3 different constructors. I'm going to say Max 1, Norris 2, Piastri. Actually, not. I'm going to change that. Max Verstappen 1, Piastri 2, and Norris 3. I reckon you're going to see both McLarens in the top 3. And
I wanted to say that, but I thought I'd be a little bit different and exciting out here with a Ferrari at least in the top 3 for the race tomorrow. It would make the start very, very exciting. That would be for sure.
If it makes you feel better, I reckon the Ferraris will be 4th and 5th, and Perez will only finish in 6th for qualifying. I think the Mercedes look like they're going to be a little bit slow in qualifying today. But again, I stand to be corrected. Yes, of course.
So later this afternoon, later this morning for us in the next few hours, we'll be taking you across though to that stream very shortly. Don't move anywhere. The stream will end and we will be redirecting you to our builder package for the qualifying stream that starts at 8 o'clock.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for watching Forever Motorsports here. I've been Mark. Reece has been alongside me, and we'll see you in the next one. Hello, everybody. We are now live for F1 qualifying here in Suzuka. And I'm joined by Reece, of course, and yeah, we just reviewed the FP3 session there. That was a little bit from earlier, of course, so now we are live once again, and I'm glad to see a whole lot of you joining us back again. I see Lindiwe, one of our more recent regulars, is back in the comments. Great to see. It's very, very early here in South Africa, of course, still a little bit more friendly for some of those waking up, though, so I'm sure we're going to have more of you on the stream. It's currently 10 to 8 in South Africa, and otherwise most of Europe. Track times, of course, late in the afternoon. The wind is blowing here in Suzuka, readying for qualifying here. Let us know in the comments what's going to happen. We can see lots of wind here and lots of flags for all the various drivers are supporting. I see Max Verstappen, Alonso flags. I see lots of fans of Red Bull, of course, because Honda do sponsor their engines there. So, yeah, hopefully also lots of support for Yuki Tsunoda, who's, of course, signed a new contract with
AlphaTauri. Yes, it was announced here today, this morning. Before we even woke up, it was announced while my build-up package was busy running. I think it was announced that Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda have gone on to sign an extension onto their contract with AlphaTauri for 2024. So there's only now one seat left on the Formula One grid for 2024 that is open, and that is that Williams seat. It has not been filled as of yet, but what could we hear in the next coming weeks?
Well, the thing is, somebody, as people are saying, Lindiwe says in the comments, morning, just saw the Yuki and Daniel news. I hope Liam gets a seat, maybe with Williams. Also, Alpha didn't want a De Vries repeat where one scores points as a reserve, gets a seat, doesn't deliver. So I suppose that's what they may be thinking with Liam Lawson, is thinking, but he's showing a little bit of form now, but will he be able to do it in a long season? I think he would, personally. I think he's he's got a lot more going for him going into next season. I'm quite disappointed he's not got that seat. But
Yuki is going to be under a lot of pressure now. This means that he really does have to perform, because they have Liam Lawson ready and waiting in the wings to take over.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So we had a poll running for who will top qualifying. 143 and 144 votes now. 145 votes. Just keeps climbing. Love to see it. Love to see it. A whole lot of you joining us in the stream, obviously. So it's great to see that. So in that voting poll there, we've got Verstappen with 62% of the votes, Norris 10%, Sainz 11%, and other with 17%. So we're going to end that poll for now. And of course, we're going to put up a poll straight away for who's going to top Q1, as that is going to be the very first session, which is going to get going in just about 6 minutes and 40 seconds time. Just a reminder, it's normal qualifying format today. Q1, Q2, Q3, you can use any tires you want. So everybody will pretty much use the soft tires, of course. Those are the quickest tire compounds. And then also let us know in the comments your predictions as to who's going to drop out. We've seen Alpine rather useless this weekend so far. Lance Stroll's really not been good. The AlphaTauris have not necessarily looked as quick as they might be. Will Albon and Williams be able to get out of Q1 or not? They've been looking quick on the straights, but in the previous practice session, they weren't as quick as they might have hoped they would be. So again, lots of names up in the air. So let us know in the comments there. And as I go and set up this poll for who will top Q1.
Yes, ramping up now as we have just 6 minutes left until the green light for Quali 1. And do be sure to let us know, as Mark said, who you think will be one of those first drivers to drop out of Q1. Who do you think will be the one all the way at the bottom? Possibly a Logan Sargeant, possibly a Lance Stroll, who has not really been finding pace here this weekend off the back of his to-forget Singapore Grand Prix, where he didn't even take part in the race, unfortunately, due to the fact that he was still quite sore from his crash that he had in qualifying on Saturday evening under the lights of Marina, in the Marina Bay, that is. Yeah, glad though that he is back in the car this race weekend. There's also a little bit of news coming out talking about Daniel Ricciardo and his hopes for returning in Qatar. I didn't find any articles, but I saw that there's a little bit of worry about his comeback in Qatar. That's certainly one to be talking about in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are about that, whether you think he's going to be able to come back or not. But some of the reports coming out from the Red Bull garages and the Red Bull team is that Daniel Ricciardo might not be fit to return just yet in Qatar.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate and it's very upsetting, of course. We're really hoping to see Daniel Ricciardo back in that seat ASAP, especially as he has signed to continue on with AlphaTauri next season. So they're still backing him, so one wants to see him finish the season off quite strong so that he can head into the next season refreshed and ready to race very well for that AlphaTauri team, of course. So we are 4 minutes away from qualifying, and please be sure to like the video right now if you have not already done so. Go and smash that like button. Obviously, hitting that like button will result in your best driver going through to the next qualifying session. We play superstitions in this room, so we will play the superstitious role here, and please be sure to subscribe as well. If you do enjoy the content, we really do appreciate it. So, back to the content that we are bringing. We run in the titles, we see Max Verstappen, of course, there last. Now, Max Verstappen, we're expecting to do very well in qualifying today, but these McLarens have really pushed in pre-practice 3, and Norris has been in the top 3 best times in all 3 practice sessions. So, we're expecting big things from them, but Ferrari were also quick in free practice 1 and free practice 2 too.
Yes, the team that looks most set to upset the Red Bulls is those McLarens. They don't necessarily look like they're going to be able to necessarily beat them, but if there is going to be one team to beat teams out there today, or beat the Red Bulls out there today, it is going to be those McLarens who are really, really close to the Red Bulls in terms of pace. Just looking at the track distance here in Suzuka, it is 5.8 kilometers around this circuit with 18 turns and a top speed of 305.7 kilometers an hour and an elevation of 40.43 meters.
Lots more than we normally see because for the last few races they've all been quite low elevation. Tyres available though today, Vries.
Yes, we have our C3, C2, and C1 compounds going from the soft to the hards here this weekend in our Pirelli range from C5 to C0. So some of the harder compounds in that Pirelli range due to the fact that that Suzuka has a really high tire degradation around the circuits. Just looking at the weather conditions, Mark.
Yeah, partly cloudy, 27 degrees, and the track temperature is 38 degrees with 46% humidity and a westerly wind of 16.5 kilometers. So quite a bit of a wind being felt here. A wind, I suppose, but wind being felt here on the track. And we can see in the crowd there lots of AlphaTauri flags. My word, and look at them blowing as well. So weather, I think, will not play too much of a factor, but certainly wind might sort of
Wind
unsettle.
will certainly unsettle the cars here in tricky corners such as 130R. Depends, of course, in which direction that wind is blowing. So in some of those trickier, lower speed corners, we may see the cars just being upset a little. Some drivers may be putting a tire or two into the gravel or a little bit over the track limits due to the fact that the wind is maybe pushing them over a little bit. Mark just reacting there to these incredible Japanese fans who I've alluded to a lot in my track guide. These fans are just extremely dedicated, extremely passionate, and they just make racing around here in Suzuka so special. Because of the fact that we have these really incredible fans that line the circuits, that have these incredible merchandise that they wear. They make their own hats for these Grand Prix. They have their own DRS actuators on their hats. It's incredible to see Max Verstappen sitting in his title challenging car, just waiting for the session to get underway, not having to wait too long. 2 minutes left to go now.
Yeah, so we are literally right there at the start of Q1 here. All the drivers getting into their cars. They are ready and waiting. We can see Charles Leclerc looking very, very calm in his car there. He's got his red helmet on for this week, of course. We've seen Lewis Hamilton's got that very special chrome helmet that he's going to be wearing for this. He's currently sitting third in the Drivers' Championship with 180 points. What can he do yet today? Because the Mercedes haven't been looking as strong as I think we'd hoped they would be. But can they pull something out of the bag here?
Well, the Mercedes, as you say, they're not looking as fast as we had expected, but they are currently the the fourth fastest team. Yes, sorry. They're currently looking to be the fourth fastest team. Maybe they might change expectations here in qualifying, but we'll just have to wait and see what this session has in store for us. Just looking now at Yuki Tsunoda and Oscar Piastri, these two young drivers sitting in their cars waiting to get going. Oscar Piastri also had his contract extended until the end of 2026 with McLaren.
Yeah, I think that's a huge piece of news as well.
This weekend.
Yeah,
yes,
because obviously he's a fantastic driver. I really do back him to challenge for a championship in the future, as I do think that he's got the talent to do so. If he can just get the car that'll allow him to do so as well, that would be great. But now we see cars lining up at the end of the pit lane. The green light is now shown, and we do have cars making their way out onto track for Q1, of course, which is 18 minutes long. So we will, don't worry, I can do this. We will, of course, be making sure that we bring you all of the various times, of course, as they come. So we see Lance Stroll is the first one out onto track. Let's see who else also makes the way. I see that everybody's sort of waiting a little bit to get out. You see the Ferraris just also holding on to their horses a little bit. Obviously, tire degradation is quite a big thing here, so they don't want to wreck these tires too much. So you could probably see, teams wait in the pit box a little bit longer than
yes, they understand that it's a long circuit. They aren't necessarily going to get caught out by traffic as much. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens around the circuits. I mean, they are all looking really competitive. I think these AlphaTauris are going to be quite competitive here today as well.
Yeah, indeed. We've got Gary in the comments here saying Hamilton is cementing his place as a has-been in every race. How much of a GOAT is he if Russell is often quicker than him? Well, some very brave comments there coming from Gary. If you do disagree with him, let me know in the comments. And otherwise, if you agree with him, let us know in the comments. Reece, do you agree with that?
Well, I think it's been a bit difficult for him in the last few months because that car has not been performing the way that a world champion deserves. But he has been building that car up with the team, and now I think they are possibly in a position to score some good points here this weekend. Just looking now, Liam Lawson is setting his first hot lap of the day.
I don't think it's
possibly
the
just
out
his
laps,
out
yeah.
laps, yes.
So, it's out laps right now. Only 2 cars out on the grid. It's just Liam Lawson and it's just Lance Stroll.
Yes, just those 2 cars currently out on circuit. We'll wait and see what they're able to do for their first hot lap attempts. Yes, just those 2 currently out on circuit, waiting for the title challenge defender. Yes, Max Verstappen to come out on track. This is where he won the Constructors' Championship last season.
So Liam Lawson, I think he'll be a little bit upset at the news that was heard and announced, of course, this morning. He probably would have been told before most of us with regards to what was going to be happening at AlphaTauri. So the contract's being offered to the other 2 drivers, Tsunoda and Ricciardo. So he might be a little bit disappointed, but he is setting our first fast lap of the day. And let's see how he responds to that news. Does he go and really outperform Yuki Tsunoda? And then it really looks like a bit of a mistake from AlphaTauri, one has to imagine. So Yuki Tsunoda now coming to the end of sector 1. What's his first time as he puts in?
Liam Lawson coming to the end of sector 1.
What else? You say Yuki Tsunoda. Sorry, Liam Lawson, 32.279. So Lance Stroll has already beaten that with a 32.0. So only those 2 out on track. Everybody else is still waiting in the pits.
Yes, as you say, everyone else is still in the pits. Liam Lawson, though, having a good first sector. What can he do throughout the rest of the second sector? He's currently setting better times than Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll was ahead of him. So what can Liam Lawson do?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So it's quite interesting to note the fact that Liam Lawson's made up a lot of time in sector 2 compared to Lance Stroll. Indeed, he has
taken away that faster second sector away from Lance Stroll. Stroll is currently coming down the DRS straight, start-finish straight, finishing up his lap, and he puts in a 132.2, quite a slow lap. We'd expect it to at least start into the 131s, which is what Liam Lawson is going to put in here. He does start off the day with a 131.7, a very good lap time off the bat here.
So one has to wonder what the hell is going on with Stroll, because quite frankly, it's shocking considering Alonso is definitely going to be much higher up in terms of a time compared to his teammate, and Lance Stroll's in a competitive car. So don't quite understand. But now we do have more cars joining the grid, a whole lot making their way out to out laps. Verstappen, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Magnussen, Ocon and Hulkenberg all making their way out. And we can just see all these cars ramping up and getting ready. The Ferrari is also getting ready to get out there. So the 2 fast laps have been put in. We have crossed 200 viewers. Thank you so much. Let's keep it building. Keep liking the video and subscribe to the channel. And people coming into the comments, let us know where you're watching from and what's going to happen in Q1 here. See Not a Raccoon saying, missed FP3 because my alarm snitched on me. Unlucky that. Zylish here saying, pole for Hamilton. Marianne, of course, joining us again. Good morning, guys. And Shania saying, hi all. Indeed, welcome to the stream, everybody. And please say hello. Pop us a question. Of course, this is our friendly F1 community here. And we're always going to try and...
time because the track is starting to get super busy now with Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Perez, Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, Magnussen, Ocon, Tsunoda, Hulkenberg, Albon, and Gasly all on out laps.
Yes, so it's going to be a very busy grid. Of course, it's quite a long track, luckily, so traffic shouldn't be too much of an issue. But those who've still not made their way out to track are the 2 Ferraris and the 2 Alfa Romeos. Now, the Alfa Romeos have been looking relatively quick this weekend, so I'm very keen to see what they can do in terms of whether they can get out of Q1. I reckon they will. Let us know again in the comments who do you think is going to drop out. And I think we're going to make our predictions for that right now. I'm going to say both Alpines drop out. I'm going to say Stroll drops out. And I'm going to say Logan Sargeant and Tsunoda.
Interesting calls there. I'm going to say Tsunoda's definitely going to make it through to Q2 at least. Their car has the pace here today. I'm going to say maybe... I don't want to say the Williams because they've also been quite quick here. And it's difficult because I don't want to say the Alfa Romeos either because they've also had some good pace and free practice.
This is
who
why
do I say then to be out? So I'm going to say... Ooh, Max Verstappen goes a little bit wide there on his first push lap. Now, he takes away that fastest first sector away from Liam Lawson now. I'll come back.
Yeah,
to
you're gonna have to
I'll have a think about that. Yes, for sure.
Indeed. So Max Verstappen's going around here. I'm noting that everybody else cannot beat his first sector, and he's putting in purple mini sectors in the second sector. So he's got to look quick. Though Norris now starting to set some purple mini sectors in sector
Hamilton
1.
as well with a purple mini sector in sector 2, but Verstappen still dominant with a 40.6 in that middle sector.
This could be the
one
fastest
able
time
to
we've
match
seen.
that just yet. This could be the fastest lap time of the weekend. But Lando Norris has stolen the fastest first sector away from Max Verstappen.
There you go. Brilliant.
Just waiting to see what's going to happen throughout the rest of this lap now from Verstappen. He does finish and puts in the first 129 of the weekend. Just watching now with Lando Norris, what can he do throughout the rest of his lap? He is now coming through the middle sector, purple mini sectors for himself. Watching Hamilton though in his amazing chrome helmet, finishing up his lap. Where does he put himself? He goes third, gets relinquished down now to fourth as Russell puts himself in third. Lando Norris coming through that middle sector now. Where is he now? He's down on Verstappen's time in the middle sector, but can continue in that final sector. Our current top 5 is Verstappen, Perez, Russell, Hamilton, and Magnussen. But this is all going to change in the next few seconds, with lots of drivers putting in hot laps now. We have Lando Norris in the final sector. We have Zhou and Bottas in the final sector as well. Norris puts himself up in second with a 130.063, so not far off the brink of that 129 margin. Perez, though, not able to match those front runners just yet.
Yes, indeed. And we have at least seen that the Mercedes have got into the 130s, which they were unable to do previously. Hamilton are 131. So again, I said, they're looking not as quick as they probably should be. But the McLaren, as we also said, the only one seemingly competing with those Red Bulls right now. Lando Norris, the closest time to Max Verstappen, just 0.18 seconds behind the driver there. A whole lot of you coming into the comments here. Great to see Ronnie here saying Hamilton and Russell in equal cars. Youth is beating experience. The hunger is always going to be deeper when you have it all to prove, unless you are Alonso. Well, I do quite enjoy that comment. Yes, it's pretty much true, but I think Hamilton still has a lot to fight for. I think he's still very upset about having that 8th championship stolen from him in that final race. And when I say stolen, I just mean, obviously beaten. I'm not going to be one of those people. But yeah, so,
Ted Kravitz, please.
No, please.
We have to oust you from this chat.
Andrew also saying, morning here, I need coffee. Indeed, lots of people need coffee. I think it's very early for most of us.
Yes. Just watched a replay as there's a yellow flag now out on track. Logan Sargeant, red flag is called. Logan Sargeant, I assume, is in the wall. Just waiting to see. Yes, Logan Sargeant has completely destroyed his car. That is a massive shunt for him. Where is this? This isn't the final corner.
I'm going to tell you something right now, and we're going to wait to see what's happened with Logan Sargeant here. He's just had this crash. This is his career end. He's done. He is no longer going to be a Formula 1 driver. There is no ways they can sign him for next season. Absolutely no ways.
That's the new gearbox, possibly a damaged engine as well because of that rear tyre being so badly damaged. Yeah, not a raccoon. Reacting to Mark's stolen comments, we'll gloss over that. Logan Sargeant taking a leisurely stroll back into the pits from there. Not a very long walk. Yeah, Lindy, we're saying poor mechanics, red flag. I feel very sorry for the Williams mechanics because
I just don't understand how. I said he would go out in the first session, so I am correct. So it's a red flag called at 9 minutes there. So I'm just going to quickly stop our counter there. Let's just start it. Oh, I pressed the wrong button there.
This Williams mechanic is looking absolutely distraught at the moment. I think he knows what that means for Sargeant and means for himself. That is a very, very, very long night ahead of these Williams mechanics. That is a huge shunt. Yeah.
There's no ways that he gets so there's one position left on the grid for next season. Everything else has been sorted out. The one position is who's going to race alongside Alex Albon in that Williams. And Logan Sargeant cannot be getting it now.
Logan Sargeant's just completely put that car in the wall. Just looking at him, he gets onto the grass, goes into gravel, and he's a passenger from then. Massive shunt, stupid mistake. Yeah,
now,
disappointing.
It's an interesting thing as well because people try to compare Logan Sargeant and Mick Schumacher in terms of their seasons and in terms of who's obviously who had a worse season. Now Mick Schumacher was in fact the absolute worst car in the grid, which had no development, nothing whatsoever. The team didn't support him. He got nothing at all. And
I don't know.
Logan Sargeant, sorry, I just want to say Logan Sargeant has got quite a quick Williams compared to normal, and
I'm so confused though by Logan. His body language, just the way he's walking back to the car, he's still got some like swagger left in him. If I was him, I would be hanging my head in shame.
Look,
and
I think
I'd be
he's
very upset. But I mean, I don't know. Of course, we can't see under the helmet, but yeah. Leonardo saying, wouldn't be surprised to see Williams giving up and not fixing Logan's car. Of course, I mean, it's a lot of money to have to fix that car now for the race tomorrow.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to go and try and get that done. We saw last week, of course, in qualifying, Lance Stroll go and crash. This Williams car is really not too dissimilar in terms of the amount of damage that's been caused here. Wasn't as heavy a shunt from Logan Sargeant, but as I said, I was just going back to the comments. So, can you really say Mick Schumacher had a worse season than Logan Sargeant when everything was against Mick Schumacher, and yet Logan Sargeant had everything for him?
Were
that's
against
what I'm saying. Everything was against Mick Schumacher, whereas Logan Sargeant has had a very good car. We've seen from Alex Albon's managed to get quite a lot out of that Williams. And he's just been putting it into the wall regularly, being rather useless in the race, coming last in his permanent position in 20th. There's absolutely no way he gets next season's seat, which then begs the question, who takes that seat away?
I think it's up to possibly... I mean, Liam Lawson's now on the driver market list. I think people are going to be looking at him after his little stint in AlphaTauri. He's certainly going to be on a couple of people's radars. But I think you can't discount Mick Schumacher, of course. Now, I think James Vowles has a lot to answer for in the next few weeks. People are going to be putting a lot of... I know, Diana, I see you saying Williams doesn't want Mick, but I think they need to give someone else an opportunity because they are wasting a lot of money at the moment with Liam putting the car into the wall. And I really wanted... Sorry, not Liam, Logan. I really wanted Logan to do very well. I was supporting him a lot in the beginning of the season, and I'm still supporting him, but he just keeps making rookie errors.
Yeah, I think that the other issue is the fact that Toto Wolff really is punting for Mick Schumacher. He really wants him back in the sport. He's said publicly many times that he wants Mick Schumacher in a driver's seat, and he recommended him to Williams and the team principal there, and obviously gave his simulation times and said, look, this is a driver you want, we're pushing for Mick, get him in your seat, and he turned it down. So they don't want Mick. Now the question is, did they not want Mick because they were going to back Logan Sargeant?
I was going to say, I don't think it's that they don't want Mick. I think they're trying to back their current driver, but looking at what he's doing, you can't back him. You're just wasting money in a cost cap era. You cannot afford it.
Yeah, and quite frankly, apart from anything else, we look at the sport again. It is an entertainment sport, and Logan Sargeant is not bringing all that much entertainment, if we're being honest. Mick Schumacher is a much bigger name,
of course,
sport, and I think that by itself will really help Williams, and otherwise
you also have to remember Williams is American owned.
It's true.
That's
100% true. So
they've got American sponsors, and they want an American driver in that car.
And we have a much bigger American audience these days as well. So that's also going to play a big part. So we'll see if...
For those of you just tuning in who don't necessarily know what is happening, why there's a red flag currently being shown by our timing board, that is because, unfortunately, the Williams of Logan Sargeant ended up in the wall. Nothing surprising, but that has caused a red flag to the session with 9 minutes left on the clock. 5 seconds to go until exactly halfway through that FP1 session. My word, just seeing this car being recovered, that back left tyre is hanging by the tethers there, and it's really looking in bad shape for tomorrow. He just looks like he stamped on the throttle a little bit too much, caused a bit too much not oversteer, caused a bit of spinning from his rear tyres, and just that caused him to lose the rear end, go into the grass, and then he was a bit of a passenger, very upsetting for himself, and that's caused an end to his session. He would have been able to get a tow from his teammate ahead of him as well on this next run, and yeah, he's gotten out the car at least, he's right, and he's back in the pits.
And if I may, the most surprising thing is, if you actually go and look at the timing board, I hadn't even noticed this, is the fact that he was going to go and put in one of the fastest times of the day. Go and look at him there. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mini purple sectors. And a whole lot of personal bests, of course. So he was really looking at his times at 32.1. You compare the 32.1 to Max Verstappen's 31.2. So I'm saying 32.1. You go and compare to some of the others there. That's going to be looking at around 10th position in terms of the first sector. Look at the second sector, 41.1. That's right up there in terms of 6th place Hamilton. So he would have gone into the top 10 probably if he'd finished his lap half decently. But of course, put himself into the wall. So not going to see anything there. So Zardish, they're saying the second Go Tifi is here. Well, I'm not sure he's going to be here for much longer, quite frankly.
No. They have now recovered their car, and that car is making its way back to the pits. Hopefully they don't need to do any repair work on the barriers. It is a really interesting place where he had that crash. I haven't seen many crashes in that area in the past, but at least that should mean that his car would have been slowed down quite a bit by the gravel and the grass, so the barrier shouldn't have taken too much damage.
No, not at all. So guys, whilst we do have a break, please be sure to go and check out our sponsors in the description of the video as well, BITDEFENDER and BOYLESPORTS. Please go and check them out. Great bunch of companies there, and we're very grateful for them for sponsoring the channel and helping us bring this content to you. And also, please be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ask us some questions. What do you want to see on the channel some more as well? What would you like from us? And give us some suggestions and some tips. We're always very grateful to all of you watching, and always take it on board. And yeah, again, also just let us know your thoughts on the current scenario we have in Q1. Red flag, 9 minutes and 5 seconds remaining.
Just waiting for a resumption time from the FIA. That should be given to us relatively soon, we hope. It normally doesn't take all that long. Currently sitting in third place is Oscar Piastri with a 130.4. Sitting quite happily up there right now, ahead of Sergio Perez, very comfortably, over 200s ahead of Sergio.
Yeah, and Diana here asking as well, saying, well, Diana, I don't know how you're going to say your name, but also saying, would Red Bull give up Liam Lawson as a reserve driver to Williams?
Well, I think if he gets given the opportunity, they're not going to say no. They've already got one of their drivers in that seat. So I don't necessarily think they'd have any issues with letting Liam Lawson go across there. They'd, of course, have to relinquish their ownership over the driver, of course, contractually, that is. Yeah, they would, I think, contractually then not own him anymore as a driver, and he would move over unless they allow him to go over in a hybrid format with Red Bull and a Williams sponsorship.
Yeah, just some people asking us for the old track timers. The only reason we've not been using it this weekend is because it hasn't been working. So we'll go back to that one. But it hasn't actually been working this weekend, so I'll try and see if it's going to be working now. We'll have it loaded up and ready. There you go. Look at that. We've got it there. As easy as that. Look at that change. That's how instant we are with gratification. But hoping that it'll work. We do have a resumption time. Sorry, Q1 will resume at 15:22 local time,
so
which is in 4 minutes time.
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah, we'll get going. Just watching a replay here of Alex Albon.
Does he maybe dip a wheel into the gravel here? I think he might. He gets a little bit wide over turn 7, and then, no, sorry, turn 8, the entry before turn 9, and, ooh, he's really scraping his floor quite badly. Has he caused some damage to that floor, actually?
Yeah, might well have done. And he also, of course, had his track time deleted for that little piece there. So, yeah, there you guys. Thank you very much for those comments coming through. Mick to Williams. Yes, people, that's what we're asking is the thing. As Nokulunga says, let's throw a Mick, maybe Latifi. Basically just saying, put anybody in that car, I think. I'd really like to see Mick get given another a chance. We're just looking at this Williams
engineers all having a look at that car, looking at the amount of damage that they have to do. They all are looking relatively despondent and quite upset that they now have a lot of work to do, when they should have easily been able to have 2 cars possibly into Q3.
Yeah, indeed. So, yeah, let's see what happens when we get going again with Q1. We currently look at the table there. Our top 10 does have our major drivers, with the exception of the Ferraris, who are unable to finish their lap due to that red flag. So, yeah.
Yes, just waiting. There's not long left to go. 2 more minutes until the resumption of the session. Yeah, let's see what's going to happen here. Let us know what you think in the comment section as well, of course. What you think is going to happen in the session, who you think is going to top the timing board. Of course, those McLarens are really, really close to the Red Bulls. I'd love to see them get on top of them and just take a pole position and maybe a race win this weekend.
Yeah, indeed. Let's see whether or not that happens. Of course, we do need to see what's going to happen with the Ferraris. Of course, they have not put times in. They are right at the front of the pit lane, of course, getting ready to put their lap times in because of that red flag that was caused. It's going to get going in just 2 minutes time. They're out very early, but the fact that they don't have to put these tire blankets on just shows how quickly these tires heat up around this track. So they don't even have to worry about trying to keep them hot, because they get hot very, very quickly as well.
Yes, it does get hot very, very quickly around here, especially with those soft tires. They do warm up quite quickly. I see.
I enjoy the comment there from F123. Says he was playing F123. Very, very appropriate for the name as well. And he said he did the same thing. And at the time he said that that's something that Logan Sargeant would do.
Well,
and then
Sargeant just proved it for you there. So
Yes.
just waiting for the session, as we say, to get resumed. We've got a whole bunch of cars waiting at the end of the pit lane. We've got the 2 Ferraris and I think that's the AlphaTauri of Liam Lawson. No, is that Liam Lawson? Yes, it is Liam Lawson waiting at the end of the pit lane.
So Chennai also saying, for sure, some top team is going to stumble. So which one do you think is going to fall out in Q1?
Yes, we'll have to wait and see which team that is going to be. Just waiting for the session to get resumed. It has now started again. So the green flag is currently being shown out there. As you can see, that green flag is now ticking down, and the timer as well is ticking down on the top left by our timing boards.
So we'll go and see if the people do appear on our track map, because it's not been working this weekend, and we'll have to go back to the other one if it's not working. So the moment we get cars out on track, we'll let you know if it is working. So anyway, going back to the comments here, let us know who is that big driver that we're going to lose in Q1, and otherwise, do you think that the Ferraris will still compete with the Red Bulls and the McLarens?
I think it's going to be difficult for Ferrari. I think they've got some really hot competition on their heels this weekend. Red Bull, of course, picking their pace up again, as well as McLaren finding a bit more pace around this circuit. They were also, as we said, very, very fast around Singapore last time out, but this time they seem to be a lot closer to Red Bull than Ferrari are.
Yeah, indeed, it's exactly that. So just looking here at the various things and just trying to get that tracker working for you guys.
Yes, just looking on our side, it does not seem to be working on the old version, so we might just get the new one up for you guys so that we do have a tracker. We know you prefer the old one, but the new one is working.
As I said,
so we prefer to have a working one than to have a non-working one.
It is unfortunate.
It does look better, unfortunately.
Yeah, we do agree. Trust me, I like this one more, but it's not working right now. It's not tracking, so we're going back here, where we do have a couple of drivers out there, of course. Leclerc, Sainz have made their way out, and Liam Lawson following suit. Going back now, of course, to the comments, seeing that Not a Raccoon saying, hope Red Bull does some bull. Yes, I see the play on words. Very, very funny. Shania saying, my guess is Mercedes is going to be the one team that stumbles. And Tia, of course, joining us here, getting very excited to see Reece in the video, of course. So, guys, please be sure to keep liking the video and subscribe to the channel and share it with all your friends, your animals, your otherwise, so that we can continuously grow you. We've got now, of course, 7 minutes left of the session. Verstappen still leads at 129.87. Can that be beaten today?
Well, I think he's going to beat it, certainly. I don't know if anyone else can beat it. We'll see what happens. Charles Leclerc now starting a hot lap. He's currently down in 14th with no time on the board. He needs to get out there. Verstappen's still comfortable in the pits at the moment. It's just the 2 Ferraris and Liam Lawson out on track right now.
Yeah, indeed. So, race controllers noted an incident involving cars 16, Leclerc and Zhou, and Bottas noted for failing to follow race instructions for maximum lap time.
So, this has been introduced this weekend. I see you looking a little bit interested there with that. That is because they have a maximum, a maximum lap time that they're allowed to have around the circuit so that they don't drive around too slowly and hold other people up on their hot laps. Charles Leclerc going through that first sector, putting in some purple mini sectors, but nothing incredible. 31.5 in the first sector. Max Verstappen's first sector at 31.2. So Charles Leclerc already 0.3 down in that first sector. Much better though in the middle sector. What can he do through there? He might very well set the first or the fastest middle sector of everyone.
Let's see, it's coming up now. Let's see as he finishes up the second sector.
40.7, very close to Verstappen.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Very, very close to Verstappen. So he's made up a little bit of time there. But will he be close enough to Verstappen to be able to challenge? As he is only now 0.3 behind Verstappen. He comes through that final sector. Now, where does this lap time put Charles Leclerc and the Ferraris? Carlos Sainz is also following very close behind. It puts him into P3, just ahead of Oscar Piastri for now. Carlos Sainz also coming through that final sector now. Where does this lap time put him? He's also had a good first and second sector, and purple mini sector in the final sector. He goes only in P5.
Yeah, so the current McLarens and Ferraris are splitting each other. Second, third, fourth, and fifth. Verstappen still sits in first, and Perez on the other side of that. So it's a Red Bull sandwich with McLarens and Ferraris, and between that, at the moment, of course, but we're going to see more
Liam
drivers getting
Lawson
out there.
goes all the way up into 7th. Brilliant lap time from Liam Lawson.
Yeah, it is
of course,
brilliant.
this track has evolved quite a bit, but he's gotten ahead of the Mercedes in an AlphaTauri.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
brilliant.
I think he's really pushing as much as he can to show those AlphaTauri head honchos that they have made the wrong decision to re-sign Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, as I said, I was very intrigued to see what Liam Lawson's response would be to that news this morning. So at the moment, he's trying to go and say, well, I'm going to out-qualify Tsunoda now, and hopefully he does the same thing in the race tomorrow. And that just sort of puts the question mark up in the air as to what should happen with Liam Lawson for next season. Of course, there is a seat waiting in Williams because there's no way Sargeant has that seat now after his crash. So, Logan
I
Sargent's out.
expect Sargent's going to have another 1 or 2 crashes before the end of the season even.
Yeah.
It's been difficult for him. We're seeing George Russell getting ready to be released from his pit garage. We're seeing the Mercedes as well of Lewis Hamilton about to be released by his engineer as well. Just waiting to remove their tyre blankets as the Red Bull of Sergio Perez leaves his pits before the Mercedes make the jump.
Looking at the times here, and I think people can also let us know in the comments your thoughts, but what do you think is going to be a safe time? What's the minimum time that drivers need to get that means that they're going to be safe from the drop in Q1?
What's that?
What's the time do you reckon that's going to keep people safe? If you get below a certain time,
I think if you're above or below a 131.4, you should be all right.
A 130?
So that's about Joe right now.
A 131? Do you not mean a 130 perhaps?
No,
Because
131.4.
Liam Lawson's up in the 130.9 already. Not think the times are going to be beaten now right at the
I
end.
don't know if everyone can make it into the 130s, to be honest.
Well, there we go. The projected knockout time is 131.1.
So about 300 faster than I expected. So it's close, but there's a big queue currently at the end of the pit lane. Lewis Hamilton waiting to get out there at the moment in his chrome helmet that he's wearing for this race weekend. His current lap time is a 131.0, just above that dropout projected knockout time.
Indeed. Diana here saying, Liam Lawson trying to prove himself. Love it. That's basically what you're saying. Not a raccoon saying, Leclerc looks a tiny bit better than Sainz today. Well, we've seen Leclerc outperform Sainz in Q1 and Q2, but usually Q3 Sainz pulls it out of the bag. That's recent performances, of course, but maybe we'll see Leclerc have a little bit of a resurgence in that Ferrari. F123 saying Sargeant has done almost $8 million worth of damage. Abhinav here saying anything in the 130s will be safe, and I think that's also 100%. I'd also say that. James Pettit here in the comments saying apparently Honda pushed Red Bull to resign, to re-sign.
Yes, they did. I was reading that this morning as well, James. So apparently they were looking to move away from Tsunoda. Then Honda had a last-minute meeting with them and somehow convinced them to re-sign Yuki Tsunoda.
One imagines that they're paying a little bit of money,
yes,
because quite frankly, why would Red Bull make that decision when they know that Honda's going to be leaving them very soon in the coming years? So it's a very interesting one, and I think Red Bull are also still very upset with Honda for saying, oh, we're leaving Formula One, only to then go and announce that they're going to be joining with another team. So they'll still think there's a little bit of sour grapes between the two. So it's quite an interesting little conversation they had. But at the moment, they're still, of course, partners. So Yuki Tsunoda has re-signed for Red Bull in that AlphaTauri seat. As a part of the Honda deal.
Yes, we agree, though, with Lindiwe's comment down there in the comment section. Do be sure to drop us some questions and any other interesting comments that you have for us. She's asked there, who else do you think will join Sargeant in the bottom? Currently in that bottom 5 is Gasly, Albon, Sargeant, Hülkenberg, and Bottas, as well as Stroll.
Yeah, the interesting thing is that Sargeant still has those purple mini sectors that he set earlier, which is very interesting to show that he'd gone through a couple of sectors very, very well. I don't think his time would have been that competitive in the end of it, but it's the fact that he was going on a half-decent lap before he went and crashed right at the end there. Noel Portkita here saying, much talk on Twitter about Dragovic joining Williams. Your thoughts? Well, I think he's a very good driver.
He's definitely also one of the other contenders there for that seat. There's a couple currently in contention as we're watching Pierre Gasly go around on his hot lap. Where is he currently on track? He's done a 31.6 in the first sector, about to finish the second sector. We'll let you know of that lap time as he puts it in. But yes, speaking about Dragovic, I think Dragovic may be a good contender. There's also talks about Teo Pache, of course. He's a very good driver as well, currently in Formula 2. There's Mick Schumacher as well, over Clisby, just saying what Formula 1 is all about. Money talks over talent.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Unfortunately, money is a big factor, and that's why we often see a lot of these drivers on the grid that not necessarily and I don't mean to be mean to them, but aren't necessarily deserving of their seats. The likes of Lance Stroll comes into mind.
Stroll.
The previous likes, of course, of Latifi, and of course, similar sort of things where money has played a big part.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mark, but our timer has now ticked over to 0, which means that this Q1 session is over. The current drivers crossing the lines are putting in their final laps. Currently, Esteban Ocon has moved himself out of that relegation zone, as has Pierre Gasly. Tsunoda's down in that bottom 5 right now. Can he get himself out of that relegation zone? His current lap time is the 1:31.2. Hulkenberg is down there, as well as Joe Stroll. Finally just gets himself out. He's still that driver at risk, though, in 15th. What can Yuki Tsunoda do? He comes across the line. He moves himself out of that bottom 5. He puts himself into P7. Much better time from him. Currently, Alonso is that driver at risk. Will he be able to get himself a little bit higher up to get himself out of there? Albon currently putting in a good lap time. He needs to get himself out of that bottom 5.
Yeah, it's exactly that. Albon currently in that bottom 5. I said that he might be there because the Williams haven't been looking that quick in terms of the actual lap times. Their straight line speed is very good, but their lap times haven't been brilliant. So can Alex Albon get himself out?
Brilliant from Liam Lawson. He improves his lap time and puts himself up into P4.
I mean, brilliant driving, and he really is pretty much showing the middle finger right now. I think that's what he's doing right now. Yuki Tsunoda down in 8th. It's also a great drive from him, but Liam Lawson really strutting his stuff.
Liam Lawson is splitting a Ferrari and a McLaren.
Yeah.
That shows how well he is performing out there. Albon comes across the line and he moves himself out of that dropout zone. He puts himself up into P12. And that elimination zone is still not yet confirmed, as Hamilton is
that's confirmed.
finished now.
It
is now confirmed.
There you go.
Bottom 5 drivers are Valtteri Bottas, Lance Stroll, Nico Hulkenberg, Zhou Guanyu, and of course Logan Sargeant.
I'm very disappointed in Alfa Romeo. That's why. That would be why.
Zhou Guanyu took a trip over the barriers. Sorry, not the barriers, over the curbs into turn 9. He says he got blocked by the AlphaTauri. It was actually it was a Mercedes of Hamilton.
But I also think
I think he just lost it himself, to be very honest.
I think he's making excuses for his rather poor lap attempt there. Very unlucky for Bottas. He drops out after 0.03 seconds behind Magnussen ahead of him. Alonso was quite close to dropping out as well. Quite dangerous for him there. Lance Stroll, as we did predict, has dropped out. Nico Hulkenberg's dropped out, and I didn't think he would drop out. But
no,
yes,
we expected Nico Hulkenberg to have a better day out than Kevin Magnussen, currently outperforming his teammate. But nonetheless, great qualifying one session. Let's see what happens in Q2 and Q3. I'm going to be interested in seeing a press conference or any little interviews with not Liam Lawson. Well, Liam Lawson, yes, I am.
Yes, but Logan Sargeant,
for sure.
Yeah, I think he's going to be quite difficult. He's going to be answering some quite difficult questions, probably being asked straight questions. Is your Formula One career over? Because one imagines it must surely be. As he drops out along with Zhou Guanyu, Hulkenberg, Stroll, and Bottas. Just confirming that bottom 5 for you once again. So every major driver has survived going into the next session. So we have yet to lose a big name.
Upsets in the first session, not like.
But we don't normally have we don't normally have Q1 problems. It's usually Q2 that we see a big name driver drop out. And the one prediction is those Mercedes. Well, looking right now, Hamilton only finished in 10th, which means that he would only just make it in if it was Q2. So maybe they are in danger. Alonso is also very much in danger. Quite a slow time, unfortunately, put in by him there. So again, the only 129 has been put in by Max Verstappen still after the end of Q1. So going into Q2 now, hopefully we'll see some more.
Interesting comment here from Gary saying Lance Stroll is an extremely talented driver, but he doesn't have the drive to be consistent, let alone a champion. Well, he certainly has the car under him to be consistent and have the opportunity of scoring great points and being where Fernando Alonso is this season, but he lacks the consistency to be able to keep that car consistent throughout the season and get up to the likes of Fernando Alonso's positions, and he hasn't taken that opportunity of a really competitive and strong car this season. Has he even gotten on the podium this year?
Lance Stroll, not a chance. No way. So Diana here saying, sometimes I feel like Stroll wants out of F1, but his dad is not letting him. I promise you right now, that's not the case. If his dad is stopping him leaving, then his dad is an idiot, and we know that he's not an idiot businessman. He's turned Aston Martin around, made it a hell of a company. So one imagines he's not that stupid. Lou Eric here saying Yuki is overrated. Well, I think that's the big thing that everybody's talking about at the moment. It is Yuki Tsunoda, not just a big overrated driver being hyped up by Honda. So let us know in the comments what your thoughts are about that. Lindsay is saying, does anyone think Stroll will re-sign this year? Maybe during the holidays to save face. Well, he is supposed to have that seat next season. That is confirmed. So
Lindy, we're asking, will Stroll go to Williams? He's been there before. He's not going back. That's for sure. His dad owns a team now, so you'd expect him to stay in his father's team. Maybe he will just resign over the winter break and go play tennis.
Yeah, indeed. So quite interesting. Yeah, we're going to end that poll, of course, that we had for Q1, which was who will top Q1. Verstappen got 57% of the votes, and you would be correct. Norris got 18%, and he came second. So again, well done there. Hamilton 14%. He only got down in 10th. Other got 10%. So I'm going to change the poll now, basing it off of the results in Q1. We will, of course, have that poll.
Stroll's being told, let's stay in the car in case of deleted laps. Interesting. Q2 will start at 15:39, so in 2 minutes' time, we will get the start of this Quali 2 session. Really ramping up now to the start of this. All these Japanese fans getting very excited on the sidelines or rooting for Max and Red Bull. Lots of Red Bull fans in Japan. Max Verstappen is apparently very, very popular out in Japan. Not a raccoon saying you all need to put Leclerc in the poll.
He's there.
He's there. This new one. Lindy, we're saying, oh, right, forgot about that time. Speaking about, I don't know. Oh, yes, when Lance Stroll wasn't Williams in the past.
Yes, indeed. So, guys, let us know also, just from Tier, they're saying Lawson or Mick should be for Williams in 2024. Well, let us know. If those were the two only options, of course, Dragovic is the other one. So actually, let's include the Pogačar. So those are the four drivers that are being dubbed for potentially taking that Williams seat. Which one would you want and why? Stefan here saying, morning guys. He's joining us on the stream. Thank you very much for joining. So yeah, we're very close to the start of Q2. And of course, as soon as Q2 starts, we will bring you the information. It'll be 15 minutes long, if I'm not mistaken. I'm 99.9% certain. Yeah. So I think it's that. So I'm ready to start it with the official timers.
It's either 15 minutes or it's 10 minutes.
Correct. So no, it's definitely not 10 minutes. It's much longer than that. Because I know Q3 is definitely 12 minutes. So if I'm correct, it's 3 minutes less each session. It's 18, 15, 12. So I think we are 15 minutes. I just want to know when we're going to start Q2 so that I can start with this timing board at the same time. But anyway,
in 1 minute's time. So we start at 39 past, so literally in a couple of seconds, we will get underway for the session. I will start that clock because I've got my clock in front of me.
So it's a 39 past.
2, 1, and it should go green right now. So I've started that clock. And it should go green on our timing boards as well as it does.
Perfect. Brilliant. Look at us. Okay, it's ever so slightly out. It's about 3 seconds
it's perfect. It's actually matching up now.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay, so we're looking at this now and it's all matching up. Of course, in case you guys wanted to know, in the top right of the actual timing board, there is the timer there. It's just a little small, so we have it now at the bottom as well, so that you guys can see that for a bit more clarity on how much time is left. So, of course, Red Bull's Max Verstappen leads everybody out onto the track with just 14 minutes and a half left of the session.
Verstappen, the first driver out on track, as you say, Albon following close behind him. Max does not want to get caught out. He's learnt in the past, he's been burnt by it, and he's pretty much every single session after that incident, I think it was in Monaco a couple of years ago, he likes to be one of the first drivers out in Quali 2 and Quali 3. Quali 1, he's a little bit more cautious. He doesn't necessarily mind being out there a little bit later because it's a longer session, of course. The session is, you were right, Mark, 15 minutes, and we have 40 minutes and 10 seconds left on that clock.
Yeah, so looking here in the comments here, I do enjoy Not Over Coon's comments here. Put Logan in the poll. That's very unfortunate. Then F123 saying, bro, imagine if Lawson put her on pole being the car. I mean, that would be a hell of a talking point.
Rapture. I think in AlphaTauri, because they would really have stuff there. Yeah, no, of course. But I think AlphaTauri would have some really massive internal struggles there.
Imagine the press conference afterwards. So after deciding that you're not going to back Lawson, he's gone and got pole. What do you make of this? So yes,
I think they would have to backtrack there.
The only
or
good
find him a seat.
Do you know what the only good thing is? Is that unfortunately that will not happen. So Tia just saying Logan for points this weekend.
Yes.
Logan.
Oh, sorry.
Don't think so. Lawson. Well, she says Lawson. I mean, yes, Lawson. I think I back him for points. I reckon he could get points. I think that's a very good shout. Ronnie here is saying, is there any reason why you have Liam Lawson highlighted? Well, I don't think we do. Liam Lawson is in capitals because he was a rookie driver. Well, not a rookie driver. He's from a different
new driver put on the grid. So that's just from our partner's side. That's the way they've put him on the timing boards. And yeah, we can't really change that, unfortunately. Max Verstappen now starting his first hot lap of the day. No, sorry, second hot lap
of the day.
qualifying.
The first hot lap of Q2. So I'm expected to see a 129, a low 129. We saw a high 129 from Max Verstappen in the previous one. I'm going to see hopefully a quicker one here.
Or mid 129.
My word, I just love how planted this car is. There's just absolutely no issues whatsoever. No recorrections, no nothing. Just goes, meow.
It is very stable. And I mean, that is the reason why Adrian Newey spent so much time working on what? Suspension. Suspension is one of the most important parts on a modern Formula One car. Charles Leclerc currently going really fast in the middle sector. Is he ahead of Max Verstappen? He is.
Sorry, I do apologize. So actually Leclerc is starting it. Well, no, Leclerc's on an out lap. So yes, no, Max Verstappen is starting. I was about to say, it doesn't make sense with us, but Max Verstappen is definitely starting our session here. But Alex Albon, quite interestingly, has got a couple of purple mini sectors in Sector 1, but he is a whole second down on Verstappen after Sector 1, so lots of time to make up in Sector 2. As Charles Leclerc now ramps up and starts his hot lap for Q2. Verstappen now finishes Sector 2 with a 40.689. These are rapid times for Max Verstappen. I don't think this time will be beaten in the session if he probably finishes that.
No, I don't think so. This should be about a 129.5 maybe, as he's now coming through the final chicane through turn 16 and 17. Then he just has that run down towards the start-finish straight. He's coming now towards the line. What does this time entail for him? It's a 129.964, a little bit slower than we expected.
Yeah.
But still a very good lap time from Max.
And the interesting thing is it's actually slower than his previous fast time in Q1. Alex Albon comes across the line at 131.5. That's not going to be quick enough to be secure in this Q2 session, so you'll definitely need to go around again.
It might be a little bit hotter, though, in this session. The sun does seem to be a little bit brighter, so that also does affect your grip levels out on track. We have Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc currently on push laps, so we have some purple mini sectors for Charles Leclerc in the middle sector. What can he do now? Waiting for that middle sector to pop up. It's a 40.7, ever so slightly behind Max Verstappen's middle sector. Will they be able to match them though through that final sector and put in a really competitive lap time?
Yeah, he's going around very well as Charles Leclerc's right on the Red Bull's times. And I said I reckon Ferrari will still find pace this weekend because they were quick yesterday. It was just this morning in pre-practice 3 they weren't looking as quick.
He finishes that lap and does a 130.4, so still a little bit behind what we'd expect for now for that Ferrari.
Yeah, so everybody barring Magnussen has gone out onto the track to go and put in their times. I'm sure Magnussen will join the track very, very shortly. But now, of course, Sainz also coming across the line at 131.1. So needs to also probably go around again. Not quite as quick as we'd hope from Carlos Sainz. But again, it's just the first lap in this Q2 session. I'm sure we'll get some quicker laps getting put in from all of them. Max Verstappen, has he managed to make his way back into the pits yet? Or is he starting another hot lap?
Puts himself ahead of Sergio Perez, Mark.
My word, look at Liam Lawson go. Although Perez hasn't set a lap. Max Verstappen has just gone into the pits now, so he's now going to be chilling.
He's comfortable for the next maybe 5 to 6 minutes, and then he'll come out in the end if it's necessary, of course. Just waiting for these McLarens. They're on their out lap now, just waiting for, I think, maybe a bit of a lull in traffic. Because the track is quite busy now. They have come out in a good sector in between Hamilton and Alonso. So they at least have some... What is wrong with...
No, it's just noting... I was about to say something's wrong with the track, but it's Hamilton's camera on top of the car there is very, very dirty, and luckily it's getting cleaned, I think. Now, Hamilton crosses the line, goes into fourth at 131.222.
Catch my joke, but that's fine.
Sorry.
I said maybe he's hit a B in turn 2. But yes.
For those who don't know, Vries can explain.
Sebastian Vettel has set up some beehive hotels with the Formula One teams and drivers. They did all of that on Thursday afternoon, and they were painting all of it and getting it all ready for the racing this weekend. They've also repainted Turn 2's curbs black and yellow.
Black and yellow, black and yellow. Yes, Lionel Norris is now set a purple first sector here. So here we go. And Oscar Piastri has immediately stolen it from Norris. So here we go. The McLarens showing their stuff and certainly threatening the Red Bull side. And the Max Verstappen's going to have to make sure he goes on very quickly in Q3 as well, because these McLarens are rapid in qualifying today.
Yes, these McLarens are looking really, really fast. Oscar Piastri with the fastest first sector, 31.232. Really, really close to Max Verstappen's fastest time right now.
Yeah, so let's see what they can do in the second sectors now, as Norris puts in a 40.8. It's a little bit down.
Piastri's up on it.
Piastri's up on Norris's time, but still down on Max Verstappen's, but it should surely put them in second position, as Norris now crosses the line, a 1:30.296. So just about 0.33 seconds
Piastri's going to get closer, though, as he does, a 1:30.122, the closest lap to Max Verstappen's as of yet. They'll be quite shocked that they're that close to the Red Bulls.
Yeah, and just 0.1 seconds behind Max Verstappen, or 0.15 seconds behind. Sergio Perez, of course, down there in fourth now, 0.3 seconds behind.
Notice put himself ahead of both of the Ferraris for now. He's up in fifth.
Watching a replay here, sorry.
Put himself. Watching a replay of George Russell, he has a
Goes
bit of a
wide.
moment, goes wide over the curbs.
I think that's
on the
deleted
extra
track
turn
time.
13. It might be, yes, as you say, Mark, a deleted track time.
Or just a lot of floor damage as well, potentially as well. But let's just see. I think he goes over the lines too much. Maybe not. So watching now on the AlphaTauri here I think this is Yuki Tsunoda. It is indeed, as he's currently in fifth. Very, very good time from him. Let's see what Liam Lawson can do on another lap, of course. They've still got 7 minutes left of this session, or just under. So they've still got some time to get out there and do another hot lap. I want to see Alonso do better right now. He's currently sitting in 11th. He's quite far away from the pace that we'd really like to see him.
Yes, this is not really where we want to see Fernando Alonso down in P11. We'd like to see him up in P2 or 3, really. That's where we want to see him. But unfortunately, they don't seem to have the pace this weekend. Just looking at a radio from Gasly saying, I felt something between my feet in the cockpit. Hopefully one of the mechanics hasn't left a tool or any instruments left in that cockpit.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So TC here has joined us in the comments. Haven't seen TC all day, so great to have you here. Says just hope Lewis makes it to Q3. Well, right now he's not as secure as he probably want to be. This Mercedes not looking very, very quick. They need to really find some time. The Ferraris and the McLarens are the only ones who can compete with Red Bull, and apparently the AlphaTauri with Tsunoda up there in 5th position. Great to see us there. We've got 400 of you watching, guys. Let's try and build that up to 500. Please be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And one more time, just go.
They just had a power failure there. They did. The lights just turned off in the Alpine garage.
Very interesting.
They're channeling their inner South African with some load shedding there. As ESFJ says, I think Red Bull Racing Team take the front row. It's certainly looking like Max Verstappen might take that front row. I don't know about Sergio Perez. He isn't able just yet to call those lap times from Max Verstappen and the two McLarens right now.
Yeah, so just 5 minutes left of the session, and I think we're going to have to make a call as to who's going to drop out in the session. So I'm going to say, unfortunately, Alex Albon, Magnussen, Gasly, Ocon, and
Alonso.
I think Alonso might fall out, guys. That's really, really upsetting. I think the current bottom 5 is going to be the bottom 5 at the end of this. Although Albon is going around on a fast lap here, so let's see what he can do.
He's setting a really good first sector, just waiting for him to come up to the end of that at 31.6. Not bad at all. That puts him around 7th with Sainz. It's faster than Sainz's first sector, Mark.
But
so don't shake your head.
Those around are the same, so it's the second sector that we need to watch.
Yeah, I think. It's the second sector that does matter. But he is putting in some purple mini sectors, so he is really flying out there on circuit. Alex, he pulls it out of the bag for us. Come on, Alex is going to do it here for us. What can he do now? He sets another purple mini sector in that middle sector. What can he do? Let's see.
Albon coming towards the end of the second sector now. He's put a couple of purple mini sectors there, a couple of personal bests, and 40.7. That's much better there. So that's putting him at around, well, depends. You can be up to 6th, comes up to 10th. Currently, his time could be well on its way to significantly beating Liam Lawson's time. This could put him currently up into 5th almost, if he can just keep it up. Loading here, and he goes...
He does 7th. Brilliant lap time from Alex Albon. Yeah, very, very good to get himself out of that relegation zone, but there are still a bunch of drivers yet to put on their next hot laps, as we're seeing that queue of drivers waiting to leave the pit lane. The first of those is that Fernando Alonso? Yes, it is.
Yeah, he needs to get out there. The problem is, I almost wanted him to go later, but he's going early, so we're going to have to hope that Fernando Alonso can get out of Q2. Of course, everybody's favorite driver. Nobody can dispute this. It is fact. And everybody's also getting a little bit upset about Fernando right now. They're really hoping that he can do something. Diana here saying, yes, come on, Albon, indeed. So Albon up into 7th, though. Will he be safe at the end of this? I think everybody else is going to put some very quick times in. I think he might still, unfortunately, drop out, ladies and gentlemen, because I still think the Mercedes of Russell and Hamilton will go ahead of him. I still think Sainz will go ahead of him. I still think that we'll probably see Liam Lawson perhaps have a go. I think these AlphaTauris are looking quite quick in this Q2 session.
Good question here from MJ Run asking, do you think all the drivers from the Red Bull Drivers Academy find it hard to leave after they have a contract with another team? Is this because Red Bull want to hold them back? I don't necessarily think so. We've had a lot of drivers move from the Red Bull Academy to other teams. We've had Daniel Ricciardo, we've had Carlos Sainz, we've had Alex Albon now as well in the Williams. I'm sure I'm missing quite a few as well. They've had a massive pool of talent coming through the junior formulas. They don't necessarily hold them back. They want them to find a racing seat anywhere that they can. Oscar Piastri has an issue at the end of the pit lane, though. The mechanics coming to rescue his car.
Yeah, so that's not good at all. Luckily, I think his time is definitely good enough to stay in the session, so he doesn't have to worry too much about that. But not good news otherwise, the fact that he's stranded at the end of the pit lane here, and they're going to have to wheel him all the way back. So early problems here for Oscar Piastri before Q3. I'm sure he'll make it in. He'll be fine. Just watching a replay here of what happened. As he tried to get going out of the pits, I think he just loses power. He notices and he just pulls off to the side. Something definitely wrong.
Yes, it did pull away quite weirdly there. He jumps onto the team radio to let the team know that there's an issue and they come and recover him. Hopefully it's a quick software fix that they can just sort out in about 5 seconds.
Indeed.
We don't want to see him being ousted from Q3 due to some niggles in his car.
Yeah, so now we've got the start of the final hot laps here in Q2. Just 1 minute and 15 seconds left of the session. Magnussen leading it here. Let's see how quick he is compared to Verstappen's time as he comes towards that marker here. He gets a 31.6, which is 0.36 behind Max Verstappen. So not too far, actually. Alonso now also approaching that first sector marker. We're going to be watching this very, very carefully here. And he gets a 31.2. So that's very quick from Alonso.
Brilliant
So
time.
he needs to keep going with that. If he can keep that up, that's going to be a very quick time. And that's going to
Leclerc's fastest in the middle sector, Mark. Leclerc's put in a purple sector, a 40.46. That is 0.2 seconds up on Verstappen's middle sector.
Brilliant from Charles Leclerc and that Ferrari. So notably, Alex Albon, of course, is back in the pits now. He's not going to have another attempt. Verstappen, Piastri, and Norris are also not going to have another
Leclerc
attempt.
goes fastest. Leclerc takes the fastest lap time from Max Verstappen with a 1:29.940. Just 0.024 faster than Verstappen's time. These Ferraris finally have the pace now in Q2.
And Sainz then crosses in position 3, 1:30.067. So also very, very close there
The
to
Ferraris
Leclerc's time.
have stopped sandbagging and shown us their true potential out here. I'm waiting to see what you guys all think down there in the comment section of that. That has certainly put in some Spanish into the works here today. Where does Fernando Alonso put himself? He comes across the line.
He's not going to make it,
Thank
guys.
goodness.
No, he's not.
He's not.
Because there's still a lot of drivers coming across the line. They're going to push him out. As Hamilton goes into third at 1:30.04, he goes ahead of the Ferrari. There's the pace from Mercedes that we've been wanting to see.
Where does Lawson now put himself as he comes across the line? Lawson crosses the line. He's currently the driver.
Only in 10th.
Will he get into Q3 though?
He's been
Who
up-
else is finishing up a lap? Gasly and Russell are finishing up.
Ocon as well. Let's see. Can Ocon push Lawson out? He's going to cross the line.
12th.
No, so that's going to be it's just Russell who can push him out, and Russell I think is going to. He's got quite some quick times there. He's going to come across the line. He's going to put himself right up near the top. 7th position. Liam Lawson is out, and we've pretty much got our confirmed bottom 5. We've got a couple of racing drivers still to get over the line, but I doubt very much they're going to go quicker. Tsunoda doesn't have to worry, I think, or maybe he does. He's near the end there.
Perez improves on his lap time. He puts in the fastest final sector and almost matches Max Verstappen's lap time second for second. He's just 1 millisecond slower than Max Verstappen.
There we go. We pretty much do have our confirmed bottom 5 as they've just finished up their laps now. So we can pretty much all but confirm. Yes, just making sure. Yeah, I think, and Magnussen's also finished his lap, I think, or maybe he's not. I think he has finished his lap. So yeah, there's our bottom 5, ladies and gentlemen, that have dropped out in Q2. Magnussen, Ocon, Albon, Gasly, and unfortunately Liam Lawson, who has been outperformed by Tsunoda. So I suppose AlphaTauri and Red Bull will be a little bit happy about that considering the decision this morning. So Yuki Tsunoda makes it into Q3 at his home Grand Prix. Fantastic for the Japanese driver there. Unfortunately, as I say, Liam Lawson does drop out. Both Alpines out. The Williams of Alex Albon out. Magnussen also out. So we're now heading on, of course, into Q3. Let us know in the comments right now. I'm going to end that poll as well whilst I think about it over there. So our poll that we had running for who will top Q2. We had Verstappen with 59% of the votes. You were wrong. Leclerc with 20%. You were correct. He topped Q2 there. Norris got 12%. He only finished down in 9th. But of course, he didn't make his way out. He chose to stay in the pits. Both McLaren stayed in the pits. Oscar Piastri not wanting to necessarily do so.
It was almost very
almost
risky for the two
yeah.
of them. But they were in the end able to stay in the Q3 session. I think it was at the end, the track just evolved quite a lot.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to see Max Verstappen's time getting a lot faster in this next section, as well as those two McLarens are going to improve quite a lot.
But the best news is that Alonso did make it through. So yes. Alonso's into Q3 once again. So fantastic for him and Aston Martin. So let's start our new poll. Who will finish on pole position?
For the Japanese Grand Prix.
Not having a whole long question.
I'm just asking people. But yes, let us know what you think in the comment section. That is about to go live. Andrew Crozier saying Verstappen only did one banker lap and went back into the pits. Yes, he did. So that means he's saved an extra set of tyres. Good thinking from the Red Bull mechanics and team. That will certainly play into tomorrow's race and their strategy for sure. A whole lot of people commenting on their reactions to, unfortunately, Liam Lawson getting dropped out of that session. Disappointing, but we have to be realistic here today. So just looking in the comment section quickly, I'm going to jump there now on my phone as Mark is busy setting up the next session. Let's see. Lots of people voting for that new poll. Leclerc taking a lot of votes there. 25% going to him, 59% going to Verstappen, 15% going to other, not a single percent going to Perez.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens there. And I find it weird that nobody's backing Perez. Of course, Perez is currently 3rd position there. And we base these polls off of who finishes highest in the previous qualifying session. So we had Leclerc 1st, Verstappen 2nd, and Perez in 3rd. Hamilton was 4th, Sainz 5th, Piastri 6th. Probably should have put Norris there, I suppose, because he didn't go and do another lap there. So I think he probably would have gone a lot quicker as well. But nonetheless, we're going to leave it as that. You can use other as the Norris and Hamilton tab there. And I think Norris is certainly going to challenge, but I'm not sure he's going to get pole. I think if there is anybody who's going to try and get pole, I think it probably is going to be
it's going to be his teammate.
It's going to be, what, Perez?
I think if anyone's going to be able to take pole in the McLaren today, it's going to be Piastri. He's had the pace over his teammate here today. During his run, he did get the slipstream, of course, but it's still getting that lap in, making it perfect where it counts, and just getting those sector times, and that's what Piastri's been able to do in his first run out here in Japan.
Yeah, a whole lot of people coming into the comments. Great to have you guys all here. Please be sure to like the stream and subscribe if you guys are new. We do a lot of content. We really enjoy having you guys here. Brandon here saying Perez cannot be trusted. So I do enjoy that. As he gets now a couple of votes, he gets up to 2% of the votes. Look at that. We're building up a little bit. Not a raccoon saying, I predict another Ferrari fan for Tia, one imagines, yeah, I'm not very happy right now. Yeah, indeed, it is a Ferrari fan for Tia, and also a big fan of Lawson, apparently. So, yeah, lots of people, I think, are fans of Lawson. They've quite enjoyed his entry into Formula 1. He's not going to be seen on the grid next year unless there's a late decision to have him in the Williams seat. Again, guys, be sure to let us know who are those drivers that you reckon are going to do it. Andrew previously said, yeah, as you said, did the only one banker lap. So one imagines Verstappen will be quickest going into the next session. So it's going to be 12 minutes long. Looking here at the weather, it's very clear. It's all primed and ready for a very hot qualifying session. I'd love to see what these McLarens can do compared to the Red Bulls and also the Ferraris, of course, who managed to finish that session very, very well. Good to see them in the 129s because it means that they should be able to compete quite well in this last session now.
Yes, it should mean that they should all be really, really close now that they are all able to get within the 129s. Q3 will start in 2 minutes' time, so we have that confirmation. Satish asking what happened to Aston Martin today. Lance Stroll has really been struggling with pace this weekend. I think maybe struggling with confidence after his massive crash last weekend out. And then we have who else? Who was I looking for here? There was another. For Fernando Alonso, he's currently in P10. At least he makes it into Q3. I don't know if he's going to be able to put himself any higher up.
So race control has noted that we will start the next session at 16:02 local time. So that is just under 2 minutes time from now.
I just said that, yes.
Sorry, I do apologize. I didn't catch that at all. You know, when you blank out ever so slightly. Go to the comments here. Brandon's asking a question. Who do you think is a better driver between Lawson and Mick?
I don't really know. We've never seen them racing together, so I don't necessarily know if you can compare them. I'll have to double check if they have raced together in Formula 2, but yeah, I don't really know who would be the better between those two.
Yeah, so Chela here saying Perez suffers because the car is developed around Max and Perez cannot adapt to it. Andrew also saying that's more conspiracy theories. There's a lot of this that, of course, the car is predominantly made to Max Verstappen's, it's always going to be the number one driver, but Perez also has the car adjusted to his liking. So yes and no. Not to the point that it's going to matter that much, if I may. So it's not going to be that problematic. So just going to get ready with this timer so that we can start it, of course, and get Q3 starting.
And now, Q3 goes green in Suzuka for the final time here today. It is going to be a very interesting session ahead of us. And it's going to be a very competitive session ahead of us as we do have those Red Bulls fighting it out with the rest of the grid now. Those Ferraris have come and joined the party, as well as those Mercedes have come and joined the party. And we'll see whether we get a four-way battle for P1 here today.
Yeah, indeed. And guys, again, please subscribe to the channel. We're trying to build up to what we previously had. We had a huge audience previously, and we're trying to build back up to that point. Great to see a whole lot of the regulars rejoining us. Yeah, let's keep that going there. And a whole lot of new people in the comments today as well. Great to see you here. Please do stick around, and we'll see you for the race tomorrow, I'm sure, as well. Seeing Naval Potkita saying, "Go Max! Go Max!" And Naval also saying Perez puts too much pressure on himself. Would you agree with that?
Perez puts too much pressure on himself. I think all race drivers put a lot of pressure on themselves. I mean, it's your full-time job. So there is a lot of expectations on you as a racing driver. But I think Sergio Perez is doing just fine at the moment.
So yeah, we've got Q3 underway, of course, and we're just watching here the Japanese Grand Prix qualifying. I don't know why I said Grand, so we're the Grand Prix qualifying, of course, before the race tomorrow. There's all going to be a very interesting end to this Q3 session. I think we're going to go right down to the wire, as we usually do. Qualifying has always been very exciting this entire season. Great to watch. And we've had a whole lot of people start on pole throughout the season. Of course, Max Verstappen usually comes through in the race to win it. We saw a different change, of course, last week with Carlos Sainz winning it, but I'm not sure we're going to see that this week. But let's see how the Ferraris can do. And also, these McLarens have been looking very quick. And notably, their race pace has been very, very similar to Red Bull. So I think it's going to be quite a difficult weekend for Red Bull, but still think they'll take it.
That's what we want, though. We want a difficult weekend for them. We want them to have to really fight for that race win. Hopefully, they will have to tomorrow. Just watching now Max Verstappen coming through the last chicane before he starts his final hot lap. Maybe he'll only have to do one here today if he gets perfectly enough, as he is now starting that hot lap as he comes down the start finish straight with the DRS wide open, approaching turn 1 and 2.
So the times that we've seen in Sector 1 has been, if I'm not mistaken, not 20s, it's 30s, isn't it? It's 31. It's been about 31.2 is what Max Verstappen's been doing all qualifying so far. So can he go quicker than that? 31.2 is more or less
30.8. That's incredible through the first sector for Verstappen. He's already 4/10 up on his fastest first sector time. What can he do through the middle and final sectors? He's already putting those timing boards in light. No one else who's currently putting in a fastest lap is able to even match those mini sectors of Verstappen.
This is very much going to be possibly a 1:28 time here for Max Verstappen. He's really going out there and putting the pedal to the metal and, extending his shoulders out a bit, brushing everybody aside and saying, "I'm the main man here, and look at my time. Go and
Norris
beat that."
has taken some mini sectors away from him, as has Perez in the final sector, or the middle sector, that is. But
And Piastri as well.
still holding on firmly to those first two faster sectors.
A 40.3 as well. It's the quickest second sector time we've seen all day as well from Max Verstappen. It's a brilliant time right now. He's going to be well on track to be in the low 129s, if not the 128s. It all depends on this final sector.
129.012 is that lap time from Max Verstappen. Extremely fast around the circuit, but not fast enough to break the 128 barrier.
No, as I said, it was going to get very close. So I say it's going to get very close to that, but unable to. Perez goes over a 130.4, a whole 1.4 seconds behind his teammate. Much, much slower from Perez there. Hamilton now comes across the line at 130.7, also not very quick at all. Piastri now coming into the final corner. Let's see what he can do in that McLaren. Will he go second? He does go second.
He does.
A 129.4, really not too far away. I reckon he can improve upon that. Tsunoda and Norris also coming across the line now. Let's see where they finish up. Tsunoda crosses the line. He moves only into fifth, a 131.1, and Norris now comes across the line. Where does he go? Third.
Brilliant. So currently we have a Red Bull and McLaren front row with Norris and Perez in the second row. So a Red Bull McLaren front and second row right now. Brilliant lap time for those two McLarens. Let's see whether they'll be able to eke that lap time out even more. Good comment here from Renu, just saying after the previous Grand Prix, my hopes for Ferrari have boosted, and they are performing really well today too. Do we think that George's crash last week may have had an effect on his mentality for this Grand Prix? Where is he currently? He's in 7th. We'll have to wait and see what he does during qualifying to see if it's affected his mentality going into this Grand Prix.
Yeah, there's very interesting strategies playing out right now. It's only Russell and Alonso now making their way out of the track for an outlap here, and Leclerc and Sainz of Ferrari have still not made their way out of the pit box here. So, not sure what Ferrari's plan is here. I think they're going to do only one lap, which is going to be very, very weird. I would have personally backed them to go at the same time as everybody else and maybe try to get another lap near the end here, but Ferrari are trying different things, as Ferrari always does. Let's see if it actually works for them. So again, looking at those times that have been put in Max Verstappen almost in the 128s, but the two McLarens right on the heels there, just 0.4 seconds behind him. Perez very far off his teammate. He needs to get another lap in because that's a really shocking lap, if we're honest. And just also noting, we have crossed 500 viewers, so thank you so much, guys, for joining us here. And let's keep it going, shall we? Yeah.
6 minutes and 20 seconds left of this qualifying 3 session, the final qualifying session out here in Suzuka, Japan. Sergio Perez comes into the pits, Hamilton comes into the pits, Verstappen's already in the pits. Sainz and Leclerc have yet to come out onto track. Russell's on an outlap, and Alonso is currently on an outlap.
I enjoy the comments here, and I would love to see it happen. I think it would be quite a funny thing to come out of nowhere. But Diana here saying, what is Ferrari waiting for? And Brandon answering simply, Ferrari's waiting in the pits to ruin Red Bull's weekend. Well, it would be a hell of a thing.
Wait and see if that's even possible here today. It would certainly be a big surprise to see the Red Bull's weekend being destroyed in the last few minutes.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So, Russell now gearing up to start his first fast lap of Q3. I'm not sure he's going to have much time for another one unless he's got enough fuel to do it.
He's probably fueled up for a double push. What Ferraris are doing here, though, is quite smart. They're not using a second set of tyres.
Yeah,
They're only using one.
Ferrari's going to risk it all and only going to go for one lap attempt. They're still not coming out of the pits. They're going to have one lap attempt right near the end there. So
they might put their cars on higher fuel and do 2 runs if they're able to.
I think they need to go out right now if they want to. It's only 5 minutes left of the session, so it's not enough time. It's a long track, of course. So 130. So 130 times 2, that's already at 3 minutes plus a cool down lap in between that and an out lap. You have to get out there if they wanted to do that, and they haven't left, which means it's only going to be 1 lap for them. Alonso, though, now starting his hot lap as well with Russell. So let's see what Alonso can do. Hold on a personal best. No mini purple sectors, though. What can he do compared to Russell's time? Alonso has gone quicker than Russell in Sector 1, very notably. So could we see a late surge from the Aston Martin driver? And could he put himself relatively decently for tomorrow? Of course, Tsunoda's up in 6th right now. I think
so
those two
them,
can
in between Hamilton and Tsunoda. Let's see what they do in the middle sector. George Russell approaches that middle sector marker. He does a 40.6. Nothing brilliant that matches Sergio Perez's middle sector.
Alonso, though, what does he do?
Yes, just waiting for him to approach that marker now. It should be in the next few seconds as he does now come across that.
Does he now?
Russell's put in a purple mini sector.
And then a couple of poor
Russell goes up into fourth ahead of Sergio Perez. Alonso sets a 41.0. So
What happened?
It's lower middle sector. He may have made a mistake
I
there.
think, yeah.
Or maybe gone a little bit wide into turn 9.
The Ferraris are making their way out.
Leaving the pits.
Yeah, so Russell, as I said, not a very quick time for him there at 1:30.2. I think he can go quite a bit quicker than that, hopefully.
I agree with Diana in the comments. Ferrari are rarely gambling. If someone sends it into the wall and causes a red flag, they are completely stuffed.
I suppose they're looking at the drivers on the grid. The only one likely to go into wall is probably Russell or Perez. So,
Or Tsunoda.
Yeah, Tsunoda could, but I think Tsunoda usually just has a breakdown in the car, so it's surely not usually that big of a problem. Alonso crosses the line, unfortunately, the slowest time. Well, that's not the slowest time. 1:30.5, but I think that will be beaten. Wouldn't have enough time to go for another push lap. I'm sure he will, so he's just going to cool down right now, as is George Russell, I'm sure, as Leclerc and Sainz also making their way out. They're only going to have time for one push lap. So, yeah, let's see what they can do.
Yes, it all comes down now to this final lap from the Ferraris. Will they be fast enough on a single lap to be able to take the pole position away from Max Verstappen, who's currently out on track, warming himself up for another push lap? The Red Bull engineers all lined up, watching the TVs
They're all
to see
smiling.
they know what their car can do here this race weekend, and they all know how much pace Max has in
I was
hand.
about to say, I think they realize, they're like, we haven't even shown these guys. We can do a 1:27. And, he's probably going to find another second. I wouldn't be surprised if Red Bull.
1:27 is a bit optimistic. They're doing 1:48.
I know. I think they'll do a 1:28.5.
1:48.5.
No, that's just this outlet.
Oh, sorry,
Relax.
sorry, I was going to say.
No, so they have done a 1:29 dead, so I think he's going to get into the 1:28s. Can he gain even a whole second, though, from that 1:27 would be incredible to see from that Red Bull. Quite frankly, everyone should just appreciate that. So now, Verstappen is starting his hot lap.
And he's already beating his best time
Purple
for
mini
previous. He's
sectors
going
everywhere.
purple every single mini
Yo.
sector that he's going through.
No, there's
fine. He's got
one.
a yellow one there.
Yeah, he's got a yellow one. A couple of yellow ones now. So he's got a little bit too hastily. Now it's a mini purple sector here again. So yeah, it's right. Final 2 minutes of the session. It's going to come right down to the wire, guys. Do not go anywhere. Here we go. As
Piastri is putting in some mini sectors now on his warm-up lap, rather. Max Verstappen sets an even faster first sector, 30.7.
Yeah, indeed. So 30.7. It's very, very quick, of course, from Max Verstappen. And let's see what he can do in sector 2. He's got a mini sector there.
Sets a purple mini sector in the first sector now. The two McLarens have started their final runs. What are the Ferraris doing? Nothing.
Personal
able
best.
to
My
match.
word, far off in that first sector there from the two Ferraris. They've really risked it all. And I think it's not going to pay off, though. The second sector seems to be going all right. The purple mini sectors appearing for Leclerc, so maybe they can make up a bit of time in the second sectors here. But their first sectors are well off the pace of Max Verstappen. Literally a whole 0.5 seconds off at the end of that first sector.
Verstappen goes even faster in the middle sector now. 40.3 is that middle sector time for himself. He's now coming through that final sector. What will his lap time be? We will keep you updated. These Ferraris are putting in good sectors, actually. A 40.3 for Charles Leclerc, for 31.2 in the first sector. That's
How
very
far
slow
off is
first
Leclerc
sector.
to Verstappen?
Verstappen does a 128.8. He finally breaks the 129 barrier. What can these Ferraris do in retaliation?
Not nearly as quick.
Leclerc comes through the final sector now. He only goes up into P4. Not good enough, as you say, Mark.
Ferrari gambled and they lost. Definitely lost. They should have gone out there with everybody else. They would have been fine. Sainz only into fifth. The 129.8. Slow. They're going to drop. I think everyone else on the grid's going to go even quicker. Alonso's back in the pits and so is Russell. So they're going to keep their times there. Hamilton is currently doing an outlap, is currently doing a fast lap, of course. Let's see what he can do. Can he push himself further up the grid? As Piastri and Norris now cross the line quite slowly. They do not improve their times.
No, I've been watching that. They might be ramping up for another start. No, they don't. They have called it for the day. Can any of the drivers behind them steal those front two rows away from them?
It's
Sergio
Perez. It's the only one that could potentially do that. As Perez now crosses the line, he moves into fifth position.
Not good enough to upset the McLarens today. Brilliant from the McLarens to be able to lock out.
What about Hamilton,
second
though?
and third? What can Hamilton do now as he comes through that final sector? He only goes seventh.
Yeah, so that is the end of Q3, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to end that poll right there, and we'll come back to that right now. I just want to go and quickly... Actually, no, we'll go back to that right now. So just looking at that poll, can we compare it to our top 10 there? Verstappen got 60% of the votes. You are correct. Leclerc with 26%, he only finished in fourth. Other got 12%. Perez got 0 ultimately. So, yeah.
How rude. For Perez.
Yeah, but I suppose they were right.
For Perez
They were
today.
right. Yeah, so...
Yes, just looking at the pole sitter now, Max Verstappen, a very, very dominant lap around here at 128.8. The only driver this weekend to be in those 128s. The closest driver to him is Oscar Piastri in second with a 129.5. 581 seconds behind Max Verstappen's time. Lando Norris is the second McLaren then on the second row of the grid to start the race tomorrow. And we're going to say hello in 2 seconds. We're going to start recording for our qualifying review and we're going to transition across to that studio.
Yeah, so let's go and review the session, shall we? Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Motorsports. You're joined by myself, Mark, and of course, Reece alongside me. We've just finished Japan qualifying here. And as per usual, Max Verstappen strutting his stuff, getting the only 128 of the session, at 128.8. But the McLarens are looking very good for the race as well. They're chuffed as anything. Zach Brown is going around high-fiving everybody. It's going to be a good race for tomorrow for them as well.
It's going to be a very, very interesting race ahead of us tomorrow. Do not miss that at all. Be sure to join us very early, though, for our stream tomorrow morning for that. I think it's going to be an exciting race. With the McLarens fighting with the Red Bulls yet again. Last time we had them fighting it out was in Silverstone, and look how that race went. So, just going through our top 10 then. Max Verstappen, of course, took pole position from those two McLarens with Piastri in second and Norris in third. Charles Leclerc in fourth. Sergio Perez qualifies in fifth. Quite a bit behind his teammate with a 129.6. Carlos Sainz then down in 6th, Hamilton in 7th, Russell in 8th, Tsunoda having a good day up in 9th, Alonso then struggling a little bit down in 10th. Mark takes us through the bottom 10.
Yes, indeed, and from Q2 and Q1 sessions, we saw Liam Lawson was doing very well throughout those sessions, but unfortunately just dropped out in Q2. So 11th position for him, Gasly in 12th, Albon in 13th, Ocon 14th, Magnussen in 15th. Then our bottom 5, of course, from Q1. Those were eliminated there. Bottas in 16th. Lance Stroll in 17th, who's really been struggling. Hulkenberg in 18th. Zhou Guanyu in 19th. And Logan Sargeant, who, of course, put it into the wall at the very final corner of the track, causing a red flag in that first session. So, yeah, as I said, we've just run through Q1. That's what happened. Logan Sargeant went straight into the wall at the end of his hot lap there. He was putting in a half-decent lap. But that's surely his career in Formula 1 over after yet another crash. So he will be starting once again at the back of the grid. And again,
he could even be starting from the pit lane tomorrow. He caused quite a lot of damage to his car. He pretty much removed that left rear from the gearbox and everything. The left rear wing, or not wing, the left rear wheel was completely detached, and really high energy impact. Luckily he was okay. He jumped straight out of his car and went back to the pits. But yeah, there's a lot of questions now about that second Williams season.
So Verstappen obviously topped the charts there in the first qualifying session Q1, and then Norris was second. And Piastri was also very quick in that first session there. The Vries and the Mercedes, not so much. Perez also not brilliant. Into the second session, though, as well, it was to be expected. It was just basically seeing whether or not Liam Lawson could try and get into that top 10. Everything else was pretty much decided, and it did result in that, unfortunately. So the normal drivers getting eliminated there as well. So also Verstappen topped that yet again, but no, it didn't. What am I talking about? Verstappen was, and Verstappen and the two McLarens did very well early on in that session, and then decided not to come out. So the Ferraris did very well right at the end of Q2, and Leclerc managed to go ahead of Max Verstappen in Q2. But then come Q3, look at them strut their stuff. Ferraris tried a weird strategy where they didn't come out early, and they only left it right to the end to do one single lap. It did not pay out for them. They only finished in 4th and 6th. Verstappen is on pole for tomorrow, but two McLarens right behind him.
Yes, it's all going to be to fight for in the race tomorrow. It's going to be very exciting. It's going to be an absolute battle, I'm hoping, till the end of the race here, with those McLarens being very close to the two Red Bulls as well. Of course, the two McLarens are in a bit of a Red Bull sandwich. Just looking at where Perez is, of course, he's behind Leclerc. But those McLarens will have the upper hand in terms of strategy tomorrow if they do use it correctly. They could maybe just force the Red Bulls into an unforced pit stop, maybe.
Yeah, it's exactly that. So lots of work also for Mercedes down at 7th and 8th. Really not a great day for them at all. So they need to work their way through the grid as per usual, as they have done for quite a while. Aston Martin pretty much giving up on Lance Stroll at this point, down at 17th. And Williams also giving up on Logan Sargeant down in 20th. Albon, though, is going to have to work his way up into the points from 13th. I reckon he can probably do it. The straight line speed of those Williams is looking very, very good. So for race pace, the Williams, I think I could back them to try and do some stuff. When I say them, I mean Albon, because I think Sargent's going to struggle right at the back of the grid there. So let's give our predictions, Reece. Who is going to win the Grand Prix tomorrow? What's your top three?
Well, I'm going to say Max Verstappen takes the win after this dominant qualifying session. I think he's really going to run away with it tomorrow. I'm hoping that the McLarens can keep up. And then I'm going to say Verstappen P1, Piastri P2. He's finally going to get his first podium. Touch wood. Come on, guys. Let's get a Piastri podium finally. And then I'm going to say Charles Leclerc maybe takes Norris.
Okay.
Norris is going to be a bit of a rear gunner tomorrow, and he might just have to sacrifice himself to save Piastri.
Well, we have seen that McLaren's race pace has been quite good, but so has Ferrari. So yeah, probably not a bad shout at all. So I'm going to go Verstappen first. I really don't want to do it because we don't like doing it, but I have to do it. I'm going to back the same. I'm going to have to back the same prediction. I'm going to say Verstappen 1, Piastri 2, and Leclerc 3. Norris 4, Sainz 5, Perez 6. I'm going to just go a little bit further just to try to add a little bit of interest. So that's going to be my predictions there. Let us know in the comments, of course, your predictions for the race here in Japan. It's going to be certainly an interesting one in one of the. It's a very, very nice circuit, let's be honest, and it's going to have a lot of fans there. And McLaren's are certainly going to be licking their lips at the potential of a double podium if they can try and get their strategies right, of course. But you can catch it here all on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video as well, and we'll of course join you live for the race here in Suzuka. Thank you so much for watching. Myself, I've been Mark, and Reece, of course, alongside me. You've been watching it here on Forever Motorsports. Until then,